Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We have 3 hours to have this hearing, and we'd like to use every minute of it. So, can we ask people to settle down and ask the pages to close the doors? We're just waiting for the bill authors, but I think we can start already in the meantime, no? So, good morning. Thank you for coming. This is the second hearing on the raising the excise taxes on tobacco. We'd like to welcome all our guests here, distinguished members of the cabinet, and we'll dispense with our usual remarks and give the floor to the members and the resource persons to facilitate time. Can we just ask the committee secretary, we'd like to acknowledge the presence of Senator Nancy Binay, the Senate Committee Chair of Tourism, and we can ask the committee secretary, Attorney Basil, to recognize the resource persons here today. Thank you again, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Honorable Senator Angara, and good morning, Senator Binay. The resource persons for today's hearing on increasing tax rates on tobacco taxes from the Department of Finance, we have Undersecretary Carl Chua. From the Department of Health, we have the Secretary Dr. Francisco Duque, together with Undersecretary Rolando Domingo. From the Bureau of Custom, we have Attorney Arnel S. Gubala, the Deputy Commissioner for from the Bureau of Internal Revenue, Attorney Arnel S. D. Gubala, Deputy Commissioner. From the National Tax Research Center, we have Ms. Marlene Calubag, the Chief Tax Specialist in Direct Taxes Branch. From the National Tobacco Administration, we have Attorney Meljan Bersosa. To represent the PhilHealth, we have the Independent Director, Dr. Anthony Leachon. From the National Philippine Statistics Authority, we have Mr. Jose Alvin Almedia, the Senior Statistics Specialist. From the Philippine Institute for Development Study, we have Mr. Nicole Artur Borromeo, Supervising Research Specialist, together with Ms. Janet Cuenca. To represent the province of La Union, we have Attorney Reynaldo Mosuela, Board Member of La Union. Representing the province of Isabela, we have Mr. Anton T. Albano, the Vice Governor of Isabela. From the private sector and health advocate, we have Dr. Rizalina Raquel Gonzalez, Philippine Pediatric Society Incorporation and Tobacco Control. We have also the President of the Philippine College of Chest and Physician, Dr. Leonora Canizares Fernandez. We have also the presence of Dr. Dante Morales, the founding President of the Philippine Society of Hypertension and Philippine Lipid and Atherosclerosis Society. We have also the President of Philippine Society of Medical Oncology in the person of Dr. Jose Garcia Jr. We have also the presence of Dr. Roy Ferrer, the acting CEO of the PhilHealth, and the President. Also, we have Mr. Ralph Emerson Digulacion, the Project Manager of Health Justice Philippines. Present also is the Executive Director of the Framework Convention on Tobacco Control, Alliance Philippines, in the person of Dr. Encarnita Blanco Limpin. We have also Engineer Emer Rojas of the New Boys Association of the Philippines. Mr. Saturnino Distor, President, Philippine Tobacco Growers Association. Mr. Bernard Vicente, President, National Federation of Tobacco Association of Cooperatives. We have also the presence of former Congressman and now President of Federation of Free Farmers, Mr. Leonardo Montemayor. To represent the Philippine Association of Stores and Carinderia Owner, we have Ms. Catherine Galang, Chapter Leader, Pasco. Representing the Philippine Tobacco Institute is Attorney Carmen Herce. Representing Philip Morris, Fortune Tobacco, we have Attorney Raul Academia, the Director, Illicit Trade Prevention. We have also Mr. Winston Uy, the President of Universal Leaf Philippines Incorporated. Representing Japan Tobacco International is Mr. Manos Kokuraris, the General Manager of JTI. Representing Associated Anglo-American Tobacco Corporation is Mr. Blake Clinton D. From the Lacerte Cigar and Cigarette Factory, Mr. Walter Philip Barrios, the Vice President, Leaf Production Development. From the Federation of Philippine Industry, we have Mr. Jesus Aranza, the President, together with the Secretary General, Attorney Rufino Margate. From Pro-Yossi Organization, we have Mr. Anton Israel. And from the Academy, we have Dr. Jose Santiago Jr., the President of Philippine Medical Association. We have also the presence of Dr. Anthony Dance of the College of Medicine, UP Manila. That's all, Honorable Chair.
Thank you, Comsec. We'll give the floor first to the author, Senator Manny, who may want to say a few words.
Thank you, Mr. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Magandang umaga sa ating lahat. I'm here. I am a health advocate. Our body is the temple of the Holy Spirit. When we take care of our bodies, we glorify God. When we abuse our bodies, we dishonor God. Smoking has been established as an unhealthy lifestyle. We are here to fight smoking, the toxic and dangerous enemy of the human body. Nandito po tayo ngayong umaga upang isulong ang pagtaas ng tobacco tax. My main object of proposing Senate Bill 1599 is to save lives. This bill, which I filed October 2017, enjoys the support of the Department of Health and the Department of Finance. President Rodrigo Duterte even approved the recommendation of the DOH and DOF to back this bill. Kasulukuyan mayroong 13 million Pilipino na naninigarilyo. Ayon sa mga pag-aaral, pagdating ng taong 2022, madadagdagan pa po ito ng 1.2 million smokers. Most of the victims are from the youth and marginalized sectors, people who have no means of paying for the harmful effects of smoking. We have to protect the youth from smoking, which is highly addicting. Tobacco tax increase will help raise revenues. Magkakaroon ng funding ang universal healthcare. Napakalaking tulong po ito para sa pangailangan na budget ng ating gobyerno. We need that, but remember there are other benefits beyond the revenues and funding. By increasing tobacco tax, we would be able to prevent an estimated 850,000 new smokers on the first year of implementation. Kapag may ginawa tayo, kaya nating pigilan ang masamang epekto ng paninigarilyo. Paalala sa mga maninigarilyo, the chemicals in cigarette smoke are toxic and poisonous. Hindi lamang katawan ninyo ang apektado, damay din ang mga tao na sa paligid ninyo na nakaka-inhale. Mas matindi ang apekto ng second-hand or third-hand smoke sa mga mahal ninyo sa buhay. Nakakatakot isipin ang posibleng biktima sa masamang epekto ng sigarilyo ay ang mga mahal natin sa buhay. Posibleng ang ating kapatid, tatay, nanay o maging ang mga anak natin. Hayaan ba natin to? So, with this, I firmly urge the committee to agree the appropriate rates to approve this very urgent measure before the session ends. Napaka-importante talaga itong tobacco tax increase dahil hindi na tayo pwede ang government natin. We have to understand na ang government natin kailangan ng karagdagang funding. Alangan naman mangutang tayo ng mangutang, so naghanap tayo ng solution para madagdagan yung budget ng gobyerno. We should understand this. at hindi na natin kayang magpataw pa ng mga taxes doon sa mga araw-araw na ginagamit ng pamilya, like water, bigas, mga pagkain. Hindi na natin kaya magpataw pa ng taxes noon kasi lalong naghihirap yung mga mahirap habang tinataas natin yung taxes, naghihirap yung mga maliliit na tao, nahihirapan yung milyong-milyong tao pag mataas ang presyo ng mga bilihin sa araw-araw. So, wala na tayong ibang choice na ito. Ang naisip ko lang is itong sa tobacco tax, and I'm thinking also to raise the taxes sa liquor. Yung mga liquor, alcohol, kailangan natin itaas yung mga taxes niyan dahil kung sa pagkain tayo magtataas, ilang tao ang magsakripisyo, ilang tao ang maghihirap pag itaas natin yung araw-araw na ginagamit ng mga tao, pagkain, lahat ng ano. Ito ay tulong-tulong naman tayo para ma-save natin yung bansa natin. Tulong-tulong tayo para magkaroon ng funding ang ating gobyerno nang hindi tayo mangungutang palagi taon-taon. So this is the only way solution na naisip ko sa tabako na lang dahil ang mga naninigarilyo nagkakasakit, na hospital, namamatay. So hindi nakakatulong. Pag nagtaas tayo ng taxes sa pagkain, maraming tao na nagugutom, maraming tao na nahihirapan. So yun lang, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Manny. Can we ask Senator Nancy if she would like to... Nothing. Okay, we'll go first to the DOF, or DOH. We have Secretary Duque with us, sir. Do you have a presentation for us?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, the good Senator Sani Angara, and all the members of the Committee on Ways and Means. And with the permission of the committee, I would like to start off with a presentation. And I think the slides are okay. Can I start, Mr. Chairman?
Please go ahead, sir.
Yes, thank you very much. Once again, good morning, Mr. Chairman, honorable senators, and all of our fellow resource speakers. The Department of Health and the Department of Finance will jointly present our proposal to reform the excise tax regime for both tobacco and alcohol. The DOH considers this as a key public health measure to reduce deaths and disabilities due to tobacco and alcohol consumption. The Department of Finance, meanwhile, recognizes this as a revenue measure to ensure that we will have adequate financing to implement the Universal Healthcare Law and other important health programs, which is deemed a priority of the Duterte administration. Wala pa tayong slides. Mr. Chairman, if I may request that our slides
Ask the resource
project
the committee secretary staff what's the hold up with the slides. I think they were given ahead of time. In the meantime, we'd like to acknowledge the presence of Senator Sherwin Gatchalian, chairman of the Senate Committee on Energy, who I think yesterday filed also a bill to raise cigarette taxes to 70 pesos per pack. So. Maybe Secretary, you can just go through it.
Yes.
In the
Okay,
meantime, we'll while we're waiting, so we
Thank
don't.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On January 7, 2019, the President approved the recommendation of the DOH and the DOF to increase excise tax rates of tobacco and alcohol products and certifies as urgent Senate Bill number 1599 of Senator Manny Pacquiao. Current evidence shows that the sin tax law of 2012, which raised tobacco and alcohol taxes, was effective in reducing the proportion of Filipinos who smoke. The effects, however, have plateaued, making the Philippines the third highest among ASEAN countries in terms of smoking prevalence. The country also is the 7th lowest in terms of tax burden for tobacco products, making cigarette prices cheaper than our neighbors. This, coupled with increasing disposable income, makes tobacco products still affordable even for the poor. Meanwhile, alcohol consumption has significantly increased since 2008, and only marginal reduction has been observed even with the introduction of the sin tax in 2012. And this has translated to a high proportion of liver diseases and vehicular accidents attributable to the harmful effects of alcohol. Finally, to fully implement universal health care or UHC reforms, we will need to plug the funding gap of approximately 40 billion pesos by 2019 during the first year of implementation. Securing sustained funding beyond 2019 is crucial in realizing the intents of universal health care. Results of a simulation exercise developed jointly by the DOH and DOF and the WHO, or World Health Organization, estimates that the DOF proposed rate will avert approximately 713,000 deaths and will result in 3.2 million quitters in adults. And this rate will also bring down smoking prevalence to 16.8% and help reach our non-communicable disease target. In view of these problems, Your Honors, the DOH and the DOF have worked towards developing a proposal that would achieve the twin objectives of protecting the public's health and at the same time raising sufficient revenues to underpin the implementation of the Universal Healthcare Law. Specifically, the health objectives include bringing smoking prevalence down to 15% from current 23%, saving more than 500,000 Filipinos from dying due to smoking-related complications, and reducing alcohol consumption prevalence by 10 percentage points. These are consistent with the President's stance on smoking and the health objectives of the Duterte administration. It is also noteworthy to mention that the very poor, the very young, and the very old are the most price-sensitive, hence predisposed to benefit from raising tobacco taxes both in terms of health and economic burden due to tobacco-related illnesses. On the other hand, revenues for the UHC need to sustain 100% PhilHealth coverage and provide better outpatient benefit package, which includes checkup or consultation and medicines. At this point, Your Honors, I would like to request, in behalf of Secretary Dominguez, USEC Carl Chua, to discuss the tax rates and revenue implications of the joint DOF-DOH proposal. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead, Yusek. Thank you, Secretary Duque.
Thank you very much, Secretary Duque. Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. Using the same modeling simulation that successfully predicted the gains from the sin tax law of 2012, the DOH and DOF jointly recommend the following to achieve the intended health and revenue impact, both of which were approved by the President. The first is that excise taxes levied on tobacco products be raised to at least 60 pesos per pack, with a 9% annual indexation, similar to the proposal of Senator Pacquiao. For alcohol, the following are the key reforms, particularly on fermented liquor and distilled spirits, which make up the bulk of alcohol consumption at around 99%. First, the current excise tax structure on fermented liquor, such as beers, differentiates between those manufactured in factories and those sold and brewed in microbreweries or small establishments. We recommend removing this differentiation for simpler tax administration and imposing a unitary excise tax rate of 40 pesos per liter initially and an additional 5 pesos in the succeeding years per year until 2022. From 2023 onwards, we are proposing a 10% indexation rate to account for inflation and the increase in income. For distilled spirits, we are proposing to increase the specific excise tax rate to 40 pesos per proof liter, followed by an additional 5 pesos per year in the succeeding years until 2022, followed by a 10% indexation thereafter. We also propose to increase the ad valorem rate to 25% from the current 20%. This proposal will allow us to gradually move from the current 70 to 30 ratio between tobacco and alcohol consumption and taxes, given the lower alcohol excise tax rates, to the more appropriate 60 to 40 ratio that closely follows household consumption pattern. Last
Sorry to
December-
interrupt, no? But did the House break down that distinction that you're looking for? Did they do that?
They achieve somehow, but not enough pa. Because
how
as
did they
I
do
will
that?
explain, the rates are not sufficient.
No, not the rate. You said that you wanted to, because there's a classification of beer and distilled spirits. Did the House break down that distinction and impose a singular rate on
No,
on
they
all
had a
alcohol
separate
products?
rate also.
They still maintain the separate.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. To continue, last December, the House of Representatives approved on third reading House Bills 8677 and 8616, amending the excise tax rates on tobacco and alcohol. Both bills now transmitted to the Senate provide for tax rates that are much lower than those proposed by the DOH and DOF. For instance, for tobacco, the proposed increase amounts to only 37.50 in the first year, followed by a 2 peso and 50 centavos per year increase, with a 4% indexation thereafter. For distilled spirits, the current rate of 22.5 peso is proposed to be increased to only 30 pesos per proof liter, with a 7% indexation after. They also propose a lower ad valorem rate of 22%. For fermented liquor, the unitary excise tax rate is proposed to increase to just 28 pesos per liter, with an indexation of 7% effective 2023. While the government is collecting significant amounts of incremental revenues from the existing sin tax law and the train law to fund healthcare expenditures, they are not enough if we are to give every Filipino better healthcare as envisioned in the soon-to-be-approved Universal Healthcare Law. In the first year of implementation alone, the estimated funding gap is 40.5 billion pesos. The DOH and DOF proposal on alcohol and tobacco is projected to generate 62.3 billion in the first year compared to just 9.7 billion from the House-approved bill. With our proposed reform, the government is projected to generate a total additional revenue of 316 billion by 2022 compared to just 72 billion in the House-approved bill. The total difference is 244 billion, which might undermine the effective implementation of the UHC. That is why this reform, known as Package 2 Plus of the Duterte administration's comprehensive tax reform, is needed. We urge the Senate to support the measures that would achieve the objectives of universal health care and ultimately a healthier population. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Yusek. Senator Binet, did you have questions? No? Okay. So we'll now recognize the BIR. We have Attorney Gubalya. Anything to say, sir?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, and the members of the honorable body. On the part of the BIR, we will just like to present the enforcement activity that the Bureau conducted against the illicit trade in tobacco. Can we have this slide,
Yeah,
please?
go ahead, sir.
Sir, last year in 2018, the BIR formed what we call the strike team, wherein we conducted operations against the manufacturing of illicit tobacco, and it resulted to confiscation of 18 machines used for the manufacturing of illegal tobacco, and the BIR seized more than 119.7 million cigarette packs bearing fake stamps for this illicit trade. And then The last operations that were conducted by BIR in Pangasinan, we were able to confiscate 4 illegal machines wherein the machines can manufacture 20,000 sticks per minute. And if we translate that into 8-hour operation, the government will be losing 10.6 million excise tax on a per 8-hour operation. So with that, the government save those millions of pesos in lost revenues per 8-hour, ma'am, because the machine can manufacture 20,000 sticks per minute of cigarettes. So all in all, the
Could you repeat that, Commissioner Depcom? Ano
Yes.
yung, hindi ko masyado nakuha yung, yeah. Paano nakatipid yung gobyerno? Paano na? Yung fake machine na huli
yeah,
ninyo.
we were able to confiscate this fake machine producing 20,000 sticks per minute. So, sir,
Mr. Chair?
Senator Bino.
Attorney Gubala, yung ang di-report nyo yung nahuli nyo.
yes, about
Paano
the illicit
naman
trade.
yung hindi nahuhuli? How big is that universe?
The volume of removals.
Kasi di ba you mentioned na nakakonfiscate kayo ng 4 machines.
Yes, ma'am.
Kumbaga, gaano kalaki yung problema natin sa illicit trade of cigarettes?
Actually, our problem with the illicit trade is last year after the mighty closure, we observed that there is a prevalent goods of prevalent incoming and the manufacturing of illegal cigarettes in our country. So we just rely
And
on.
how big is that problem?
Actually, we are just relying on the intelligence information. We are just receiving this intel, and then we do the raids and the confiscation. So hindi po namin alam kung how big it is, and then we just acted on the information given to us, and then we do the raid together with we do this together with the other agency like NBI and Bureau of Customs.
Kasi DepCom parang di ba, hindi natin, kumbaga, baka lumalaki yung problema natin dun sa illegal habang tinatax naman natin yung legal. So, parang we're not gonna solve the health issue pagdating dun sa problema natin dun sa paninigarilyo kasi pwedeng nangyayari yung legal producers of tobacco or cigarettes, sila lang yung bumababa yung consumption, pero pwede din ho yung scenario na yung illegal naman yung magfo-flourish yung trade. So, para nakakabahala lang ho na hindi natin alam kung gaano kalala yung problema natin pagdating dun sa illegal smuggling of cigarettes.
Mr. Chair, if I may contribute.
Of course.
Actually, what we found in the Mighty case, for instance, was fake stamps worth almost 38 billion pesos. And a big part of that was paid by the settlement. The second is we noticed that after Mighty, every month we collect 2 billion more in excise, or 24 billion. So, of course, there is a concern about the illegal or illicit trade, which I think is very well under control now. And the BIR has a strike team that has continuously looked into the issue. So while we are proposing to raise po the rates, the BIR's primary motivation now is to ensure that the illicit trade continues to go down. And the figures we are seeing show some significant progress.
How about sa customs?
Customs, because the far majority, I think 90% are domestic cigarettes, then the main issue actually is the domestic. In fact, the data we find is that 90% of the problem is domestic and very little is the imported po, because we still have lower taxes here.
So yung illicit trade, parang they manufacture the cigarettes
Yes,
here in the Philippines. So
mostly
hindi
domestic.
ito imported from other
Very-
countries.
The incidence we are seeing is just 10% of the problem is the smuggled imported. The far majority are produced locally with the machines. That is why the BIR's objective now is to run after these machines that can significantly reduce the leakage. Kasi pag habulin yung sticks
Question,
and
can we
packs,
manufacture the machines here in the Philippines?
they seem to be imported. So that
So
is why
may pwede din makatulong yung customs na pag sa kanila pa lang nako-confiscate na yung
yes,
machines.
that is possible po.
And you mentioned 10%. How much is the street value of that 10%?
Street value of the some of these cigarettes are medyo yung mga imported po are at the higher end eh. So the street value I would say is not commensurate to what the ordinary people in the street feel eh. Kasi they are basically buying the domestic illicit or the domestic legal products.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman, I just would like to inform the senators that in this we will be presenting also the study made by the University of Asia and the Pacific. We will show the effect, how much has been encroached in the market of cigarette from illegal, not only illegally manufactured, but smuggled in. It's similar to the Bukalan age before.
To the what? Sorry? To the similar to the what?
You are still, I think. My age, I was a young student when the issue of Bukalan, there is smuggling from Cavite of cigarettes, and in the southern area of Compit, where they papahuli yung tatlo ang laman, makakalusot yung libo-libong laman.
Sige,
So, mamaya ho, i-explain namin.
Okay. Sige ho. Thank you. From the DBM. Is the DBM here? Sorry, are you done, sir? Tapos na ba kayo?
Yes, sir.
Sorry, I'm
I'm done,
sorry.
sir. Yes, sir, I'm done, sir.
DBM, are they here? Because we note that, I think, if I'm not mistaken, the bills don't have specific spending provisions. So I thought the intention was to devote it or to earmark the revenues towards PhilHealth and DOH facilities because that's what we need, no? So we'd like to ask DBM with their opinion on that. Are they here? No. Well, we invited them, no? So, Yusek Domingo, you want to say anything? No? You're okay? How about Dr. Ferrer of PhilHealth, President? Would you like to say anything, sir? Well, we have Vice Governor Albano here of Isabela. Sir, would you like to say anything?
Well, we are here at Senator Sani Angara. Thank you for giving us this opportunity to actually give our voice to the opposition of the imposition of more taxation against tobacco products, primarily because our farmers will be affected. In fact, I think most of the tobacco growers are here. Senator Pacquiao, Senator Wing Gatchalian, and Senator Binay. And we are appealing because you just had the train law, train 1, last 2018, where we increased by 100%, I think, the taxes already for tobacco. And here we are again. The farmers are greatly affected, and you can see the studies that there's a reduction in tobacco growers already because of the effects of the imposition of the taxes said. And therefore, we appeal to the good senators. We are not saying that maybe later on we can further study whether or not you should impose such taxes. But as of this moment, our tobacco farmers are really the ones affected. And we're talking about tens of thousands of families, not even just the farmers itself, of course, because there are families that will be affected with the displacement of their crops. And so we really want to know why, again, there will be an imposition of another tax hike specifically for tobacco.
You're done, sir? Yeah.
Yes, Senator.
Thank you. Thank you, Vice Governor. Can we hear from PGH Director, Dr. Gap Legaspi? I think...
Good morning, Senator. Thank you very much for this opportunity. I just like to talk as an end user to speak from our experience with regarding the sin tax and its benefits. PGH is a 1,500 bed government hospital seeing 650,000 patients a year, and I think one of the game changers in healthcare delivery for us in the end of the system is the additional funding we get from because of the sin tax law. And on our part, although we have additional grants from other government agencies, I think the fact that if this law is in effect, it protects the hospitals from changes in government policies or leadership, for that matter, and more or less gives the hospital a sustained level of funding. So as an evidence for that is that we have, I think a lot of the DOH hospitals, including PGH, have already upgraded facilities, equipment, construction of new buildings, and of course funding of medical supplies and implants for patients. So on our part, we support the additional taxes for cigarettes, and I think they're being put to good use as far as the end users are concerned in the hospital service. Thank you very much.
Do you have figures for us, Director Gaspi? We'd like to trace that because I think we agree with you visually. It passes the eye test that PGH has definitely much improved facilities, and you don't see that many people in the corridors anymore, things like that. No, but we'd like to be quite precise in our in how we proceed here. So do you have figures from when you said sin tax is a game changer? I believe it. But could we trace how much PhilHealth, or rather PGH, got from the sin taxes? Well, given that under the law it was not really specifically earmarked, so we'd like to see how it interacts with the We'll also address the same question to DOH and to PhilHealth. We'll recognize you after you, Sec. Opo.
So just equipment alone, Your Honor, in 2014, after the sin tax law was passed, we got in 2015 3 billion pesos windfall as an answer to all the years of begging for money for equipment, and that has upgraded our facilities to probably the same level as any private hospital now. In addition to that, because of the provisions of the sin tax, we get 130 million a year as medical assistance for indigent patients. And this gives the director a big leeway on what kind of treatment we can give to patients. We can actually send home patients now with a 1 million peso bill if needed. We can give treatment of at 500,000 pesos per medication, very special ones, because the sin tax and the DOH program has allowed the head of hospital a signatory assigning authority of 500,000. So these are all possible because of the funds that were available to PhilHealth. And now we continue to benefit from that, from the health facilities enhancement program. Recently being granted MRIs and additional equipment for continuing care of our patients.
Thank you. If you have more figures, we'd appreciate if you could furnish the committee, but you've certainly given us a flavor. Yes, Yusek Domingo, you're raising your hand.
Mr. Chair, just to add, the excise tax, the incremental excise tax is actually earmarked. 85% of it goes to health and 15% goes to the tobacco farmers. Yun po yung share nila ng excise tax. Yung 85% that goes to the Department of Health, 80% will go to universal health care, and 20% po goes to medical assistance and health facilities enhancement. And just to give you a list, since we started the sin tax, we've had 9.1 million families covered in the National Health Insurance Program, 6.9 million senior citizens, 2.4 million indigent patients have been provided.
Slow down a little, Yusek, we're trying to process the numbers.
Opo, sorry.
Slow down a little po.
Since we added the sin tax, we've had 9.1 million families from indigent families covered by the National Health Insurance Program. 6.9 million senior citizens have also been paid for by the sin tax. 2.4 million indigents have been provided medical assistance. Ito po yung katulad ng sa PGH and other hospitals. And with the help of the sin tax also, we've had 15 malaria-free provinces declared, 18 filariasis-free provinces declared, and 250,000 cases of TB. Meron po tayo sa HIV, AIDS, and of course, we've been deploying 33,000, since 2013 po ito, 33,805 nurses, 229 barangay health stations have been helped, and then kasama na rin po yung mga hospitals and LGUs. And we will be able, sir, to give you the list of the...
We'd appreciate, we certainly agree with you that it's been very, what Dr. Legazpi said, it's a game changer. But we'd like to really break down the figures and how the money's been spent, because every peso counts, I think, at this point, no?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Yusek. Can we now hear from the Philippine Society of Hypertension? We have one of the country's best doctors, Dr. Dante Morales. Sir?
Good morning to everyone. Thank you very much for the invitation to come here. I've been a past president of the Philippine PCP, Philippine Heart Association, which is for the heart, Philippine College of Physicians for all internists, as well as Philippine Society of Hypertension and Philippine Society of Lipid and Atherosclerosis. Ang atherosclerosis yung pagbabara ng mga ugat sa buong katawan natin, utak, puso, at ibang parte ng katawan, at saka Stroke Society of the Philippines. Ang hindi ho napapansin, dalawang bagay lang importante sa amin dito. Ang una ho is sa health. Sa health, konti ho nakakaalam na ang mga namamatay sa Pilipinas, ang top 10 ay alam na namin kung ano, ito nasa record ho ito ng DOH. At kung tutignan ho natin, 35% of all the deaths that occurred in the Philippines are due to either heart attack and coronary disease and heart problem, as well as stroke. Number 1, number 2 ho yan eh. Those two account for 35% of all the deaths that are related to smoking. Sasabihin ho later ni Dr. Fernandez na about mga almost 30% cover the cancer of the lungs, pneumonia, TB, mga lung problems ho lahat ho yun. So dalawa na ho yan, yung dalawang 35 plus 30, 65%, ang lalaking bagay na ho yun. Importante rin bigyan diin na ang sanhi ho ng mga heart attack, stroke, galing sa sigarilyo. Ito ho, alam ho namin na attributable sa sigarilyo, pinag-aralan na ho ito. That's the first one. Ang pangalawa ho, yun ho universal healthcare, napaka-importante ho noon. Kailangan natin ng pera para magkaroon ng insurance sa lahat ng ating kababayan, mga 107 million Filipinos as of this time. Alam niyo, sa PhilHealth, natutuwa ho kami sa DOH. Nagbibigay sila ng 550,000 per operation for bypass surgery. At meron ho tayong kidney transplant pa rin, meron pa rin colon and rectal cancer, etc. etc. Ang laklak ng perang binibigay dyan. Ngayon, importante ho, mapanatili sana ito. Ngayon ho, ang importante ho, wag na natin hong atakihin yung nangyari na meron ng coronary problem, pagbabara sa mga ugat. Ang importante hong gawin ho natin, prevention. Bago pa lang sila magkasakit, i-prevent na natin. At isa ho sa prevention na yan, yung alisin mo yung mga risk factors o sanhi ng mga sakit hong yan. Nangunguna ho dyan, smoking eh. Sa heart attack, at saka sa stroke, number 2, number 3 ho yan na pinanggagalingan ng pagkakasakit ho doon. Kaya napaka-importante, alam mo ng mga tao, cancer lang, lung problem lang, etc. Ang hindi ho naiintindihan maigi at dapat bigyan diin na ang smoking ho nagpuputaw sa heart attack, sa stroke, pagbabara ng mga ugat papuntang paa at sa utak, etc. etc. Yun ho napaka-importante pagbigyan natin ng diin. Salamat ho.
Thank you, Dr. Morales. Can we now hear from the Philippine College of Chest Physicians, Dr. Lenora Fernandez, ma'am?
Good afternoon. I think it's a no-brainer that we know that the lungs are the most hit by cigarettes. And as of now, the lung diseases are still one of the top 10 causes of mortality and morbidity in the country. And all these are related, of course, to smoking. So we have computed the deaths related to smoking. It is a lot. Cancer in 2018, due to smoking, is 9,300. Due to chronic lower respiratory diseases, it's around 25,000. Pneumonia is 58,000. And for TB-related deaths, it's 25,000. In the PhilHealth, for 2017, the #1 PhilHealth claim is pneumonia. And it amounted and it cost the country 5.48 billion pesos. So all these are still related to smoking. We as lung specialists have tried to help our smokers stop smoking by helping them quit. Many of them would want to quit, actually. 75% said they want to quit, and then 56% said they really tried to quit. And you know what's the batting average success rate for them to stop smoking? It's only 4%. So it's really quite hard that once a smoker would start smoking, it's hard for us to help them stop smoking. So what is the most effective measure? It's really increasing the price of cigarettes. So we thank really our government for having the tobacco excise tax on board. We have the sin tax, and our hospital, I come from PGH, really benefited a lot from that. But a 2.5 peso increase for this year is not enough. We have done studies, we have models. Dr. Dance will explain it earlier. It will still cause a rise of 1.6 million smokers for the coming years. And that's why we urge the Senate to hopefully increase the excise tax to as much as 60 pesos to 90 pesos, because this is the only way we can cause a negative rate of increase of smokers. There will not be an increase in smokers. In fact, it will be a negative rate. So this is what we urge our government to consider, because this will definitely benefit our country in terms of decreasing the number of smokers, and it will increase the revenues, of course, to support universal health care. We are behind all of you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ma'am, what was the figure you cited, the 5 billion? Is that
5
how much
billion.
PhilHealth spent on pneumonia?
Yes. So I got it from the
Tama ba yung figure,
2017.
President? Is that the correct figure?
Yes, sir.
5
billion.
5.4 billion?
5.6 billion.
5.6
and
billion.
it's the #1 claim. Asthma is #4
Yeah.
at 567 million.
Pneumonia is, I was intrigued by one of your statements. You said it's also caused by smoking, pneumonia?
It is related to smoking. So smoking definitely increases your risk of having pneumonia. I'm sure everybody here caught a cough or cold for the past 2 months. I've had very bad patients also.
Yeah, it's, the ERs are full with pneumonia patients
Yes.
right now. And,
Mr. Chairman.
yes, Senator Manny.
I just want to reiterate, if we do not increase the tobacco tax, the smokers will increase also. So, mas marami pang mamamatay sa mga sakit.
Thank you, Senator Manny. Can we hear from the Philippine Society of Medical Oncology, Dr. Jose Garcia Jr.?
Maraming salamat po for inviting us over, and we would like to thank all the honorable senators present today. I'm Dr. Jose Garcia, President of the Philippine Society of Medical Oncology and past President of Philippine Society of Oncology. I would like to present lang yung statistics for 2018. Can you transfer statistics? Okay. Now, it's very alarming to note that there are 17,000 new cases of lung cancer in 2018. That means there are 1,400 lung cases a month, or 50 lung cases per day, and 2 Filipinos will have lung cancer per hour. And 50% of this patient will die per hour. It means 1 Filipino lung cancer patient will die every hour. So these are the new cases in 2018. We have #1 breast, 12% coming from lung, and then we have liver, prostate, cervix. For both male and female, can I have the male? This is the male statistics. We have 20% lung, prostate, 12 liver, leukemia, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. And for female, we have #1 breast, cervix, lung, ovary, thyroid. It is interesting to note that 4 of these malignancies are associated with smoking. So only one malignancy is not associated with smoking, which is breast. So in 2013, the top 5 malignancies are breast, lung, colon, liver, and cervix. Okay? 4 of these is associated with smoking. Now in 2018, there seems to be a different statistics. We have lung, breast, colon, cervix, and prostate. I would like to tell you that even prostate is associated with smoking. If we look at the data, the top 20 malignancies in the Philippines, 15 of these malignancies are associated with smoking. So, nakikita po natin yung problema po, no? So, hindi lang po, this is not the only problem. The other problem is the financial catastrophe that these malignancies will create to each family. Napakasakit pong isipin na kami pong mga medical oncologists will be able to detect a malignancy, but we cannot do anything about it kasi kulang po ng pera. So, sa ating pong mga kababayan na nagsasabi na baka maapektuhan yung kanila pong trabaho, please do understand na kami pong mga doktor, gusto po namin tumulong sa aming mga pasyente. But without enough financial resources, we cannot do that. We love our patients, and we want what is best for our cancer patient. Maraming salamat po.
Senator Erwin Gatchalian. Thank you, Dr. Garcia.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm actually reserving some questions later on, but I have very basic questions to Secretary Duque. Secretary, to date, no, with the present tax rate, ilan po ang smokers natin sa bansa?
It's 23% smoking prevalence rate. That should
in individuals.
That should be about roughly 25 million smokers.
25 million smokers to date.
To date,
we have in our country with the present tax rate.
That's right, exactly.
Okay. And to date, with the present tax rate, how many deaths are attributed to smoking?
Death rate. Let me just.
Maybe an average of the last 3 years, 5 years, but how many deaths are attributed to smoking po?
I think our resource speaker, Dr. Tony Dance, might have the more accurate figure.
Yeah. Okay. So,
Dr. Dance, could you help us with the
Your
question
Honors.
of Senator Gatchalian?
Yeah, so at the present time, there are about 14 million Filipino smokers because it went down since 2012.
So to date, meron tayong 14 million smokers.
This is our projection based on models,
Okay.
because our current survey is still going on, and we will have data by around March on the actual numbers.
Yeah, but for discussion purposes.
Yes, so I think it's around 14 million now, and the deaths, 14 million adults, yeah. And the deaths are around 150,000 a year.
150.
Attributable, because not everyone who has cancer got the cancer because of tobacco. Not everyone who had a stroke got it because of tobacco. For cancer, for example, around 30% of lung cancer is caused by tobacco. So we had to account for that. And if you add all of them, it's around 150,000 deaths a year.
And how many get sick due to tobacco a year to date with the present structure?
Well, 150,000 deaths. So
Ilan yung nagkakasakit pero hindi naman namamatay?
I have a data I can show if you
Now,
want.
my point of the matter, Doctor, is to quantify it in peso value.
Yes.
For example, yung mga nagkakasakit, magkano yung ginagastos ng government, ng gobyerno para mapagaling sila?
Yes.
And yung mga namamatay, ano po yung nawawala in terms of productivity? No? That's actually the...
Yes. So actually, I showed data in November during the first hearing, Your Honor, that the country loses 210 billion a year. And I think on the request of the Philippine tobacco industry, I was asked
210 billion.
a year, but that's only from 4 of 47 life-threatening diseases na caused by
attributable to tobacco.
Attributable to tobacco. And I can show, if you wish, I can show you the data now.
Dr. Dance, can you proceed with your presentation? So,
before that, yes, and I promised I will give the slides to the Ways and Means Committee, Your Honors, this morning. So I'll give an example sa chronic lung disease. How do we count how much it costs the country in terms of chronic lung disease? So the first question is, what proportion of chronic lung disease, ito ho yung mga naka-oxygen, disabled, they cough every day, what proportion is caused by smoking? Next. So to compute that, we used death rates of 2013 from chronic lung disease and projected it into the 2015 population. So our data is for 2015. And we have what proportion of chronic lung diseases are caused by smoking is derived from the etiologic fraction estimated from international studies. So for chronic lung disease, around 30% of chronic lung disease is directly attributable to tobacco smoke, not 100%. So next. And then we find out how many, we tried to measure in our models, how many survive and how many die. And we're able to do that because we have data on the case fatality rates. For every 100 patients with chronic lung disease, how many actually die. So we know how many survived and how many died, and from there we can estimate the healthcare costs. So we estimate 2 confinements a year for chronic lung disease. The average cost in 2011 adjusted to 2015 using the Consumer Price Index multiplied by the number of deaths and survivors. Next. We also estimated productivity loss because people are absent from work during their illness. So days hospitalized, 5 days, for example, you usually multiply that by 2 because 5 days in the hospital and 5 days to recover. Then we estimated how much do you use, and we assumed everyone was earning minimum wage. And then unemployment, we also accounted for 6.4% unemployment before 60, 30% after 60, and people retire at 65 when computing the loss per day of work multiplied by the number of cases. And then finally, those who die, meron silang loss from premature death. If you die at 40 but you're supposed to live up to 60, those 20 years also accounts for losses based on life expectancy at the time you die. You know. Again, we used minimum wage and the same unemployment rates, and this is what we got for chronic lung disease. Next. So 141,000 survivors, 10,000 deaths a year. In 2015, productivity loss was 438 million, healthcare cost was 21 billion, and premature death loss was 12 billion. Next, please. So we do that for 4 of the top diseases: lung cancer, chronic lung disease, coronary disease, and stroke. Yan po yung sa chronic lung disease, what I did. 34 billion a year in losses. Next. For lung cancer, it's 8 billion. For coronary disease, like Dr. Morales said, it's 74 billion a year, and for stroke, it's 92, and that's the total of 210 from these 4 diseases. And I would like to explain, sirs, that this 210 is a gross underestimate, and that's my last slide. Why is it an underestimate? Because we based it on the National Health Statistics, and that's underreported. 60% of Filipinos die without ever seeing a doctor, nurse, or midwife, which to us is a very miserable situation, and it affects our ability to count deaths. The statistical, static prevalence was assumed. Actually, the deaths are going up, but we assumed that it did not change from 2011. We assumed everyone was a basic wage earner. So, and also, we assumed only 30% of more than 60 was employed. We ignored the effect of passive smoking. Ito, effect lang of tobacco use. We also ignored the effect on those less than 20 years old, as you were pointing out. we ignore the effect on pregnant women and their pregnancies, a lot of abortions and premature births, and small for gestational age. And we ignored, I'm sorry, that's not 45, 43 other diseases like colon cancer, breast cancer, and others, because it's a staggering job po to do the costing for so many diseases. And we assumed that all smokers were mild smokers. They only smoked less than 14 sticks or less a day. And we assumed static life expectancy, that the life expectancy in 2011 is the same as 2015. In fact, our life expectancy grows every year, but we didn't adjust for that. So I would project that 210 billion will easily reach $1 trillion if we counted those 47 diseases associated with tobacco.
Mr. Chair.
Sir, could we, with indulgence of Senator Gatchalian, could we go back one slide and see the 4 diseases? So you're saying, Doc, we limited it to these 4 because it would be too expensive to study the others? Ganun ho ba?
Yes, we did not have the resources po, because you have to go to the hospitals, count how much people are spending, look at their bills. Yeah. So and we did not have funds to do this. We did this on our own time, using our research staff.
Maybe the PIDS could help to get a more accurate figure. The PIDS is here. Saan yung PIDS? So, could you help them in getting more data so they don't have to, because they're saying cost is a prohibitive. But if we really want to know what the menace is and estimate it accurately, these are just 4 of the many diseases. So
actually, PIDS can help. We are interested in doing the study with you, but I still have to check with our president.
Sige, but I think you should open up
Yeah,
for future.
but I also hope to get a copy of the paper that you did, because I tried searching it over the net, but I wasn't able to download it.
This is
right,
actually,
Doctor, could you give PIDS copies so they can also?
We gladly will.
And maybe
but we request that the copies be held here to this forum and not distributed, because we are submitting it for publication, and the journals will refuse for if they know that it's been already publicly disseminated.
I understand, Dr. Dance. Thank you. But maybe mag-usap kayo after so you can explore how to get a more accurate reading. Sorry, Senator Gatchalian. Yes.
Mr. Chair, just to finish off, no. So, Dr. Dance, is it correct to say that the cost is the cost to the country, no, to treat and also productivity losses is about 210 billion?
For 4 of the 47 diseases.
Conservatively.
Yes.
This is directly attributable to tobacco.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, Your Honor, that's correct.
You said, Carl, how much are we collecting to date, a year, for tobacco? From tobacco sin tax.
The preliminary 2018 full year is 124 billion. 124 billion for tobacco.
124 billion.
Billion, yes.
And if you look at the losses, and we're only raising 124, kulang pa in terms of covering direct medical treatment and also economic losses.
Yes. For now, Senator, we are immediately concerned about funding an actual gap, which is the UHC.
Correct, correct.
But this is another gap that we have to think about also.
And raising it to 60 pesos per pack will raise it to how much in terms of revenue collection?
We estimate that with the 60, we will generate per year 30 billion more.
30 billion. So it will reach to about 150 something.
Yes. 150, almost 160.
So kulang pa rin.
Kulang pa rin for that.
For this.
Yes.
No? So the goal here is to raise it as much as possible.
Yes.
Reach the optimum level without diminishing demand. Immediately.
Well, actually, the demand is expected to diminish because that is one objective of the reform. So we are balancing, Mr. Senator, the need to fund the UHC So the most revenue possible, but at the same time meet the health objectives, which is to reduce the demand po.
Do you have the model that recommended the 60 pesos per pack? Because in our internal study, I filed a bill, no, to raise it to 70. Because at 70, our internal study pointed that's the optimum level, and we can reach as much as conservatively 36 billion. No? So the trick really here is to raise it as much as possible without immediately diminishing demand, and also take into account the other factors. So I just want to understand where the 60 pesos per pack came from.
Okay, well, initially, Mr. Chair, Mr. Senator, the options were 60 and 90. At 90, we would see reversal because of the elasticity from our model, so we adopted the 60. That would also give the BIR enough time to ramp up the enforcement activity.
Is 60 the optimal?
I believe our study is closer to 70 also.
And that's also the same with our study.
Yes, I'll be happy to review it. And
you know, later date, Mr. Chair,
yes.
Please maybe you can enlighten us on what is the optimum number.
Yes, sir.
Because what we want is to fill the gap. And this is the cost, no,
Yes.
to the country.
At
If we can
any rate-
raise it to the optimum, then we reduce the gap.
Yes, sir. At any rate, Mr. Chair, our proposal naman is at least 60. So we are open. And we are looking at alcohol also as the other ways to fund that gap.
I'd like to acknowledge the presence of one of the bill authors also, Senator J.V. Ejercito, who is the chairman of the Committee on Health and recently shepherded the UHC measure. Would you care to say anything in support of your measure, sir?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Anyway, I'm here, of course, to hear the different positions of the stakeholders. Of course, Mr. Chair, the very reason that we sponsored this particular revenue generating measure, we want to hit two birds with one stone. First, as a revenue generating measure, and second, of course, as chairman of the Committee on Health, I have to support the program on how we will be able to reduce incidence of smoking. But later on, Mr. Chair, if it's my turn, I would like to ask, of course, some concerns regarding from our tobacco farmers as well on how we will be able to. Of course, we are very much concerned also. We do not want them to be affected. No, of course, I'll just ask my questions later on. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator J.V. Senator Nancy.
Mr. Chair, related lang ho dun sa line of questioning ni Senator Gatchalian. You said, Carl, yung assumptions nyo ba is, di ba you said 60 pesos? Ilan yung, ilan yung magko-consume nung 60 pesos na yan? Kasi di ba, you just mentioned it's a health and revenue measure, but when we pass this in tax, ang expectation is the consumption will also decrease. Kasama ho ba dun sa assumption nyo yun, dun sa pag-decrease ng consumption?
Our model shows that consumption will decrease by 25%. I understand the doctors also have their similar computation po. So kasama po yan because of the model we use. And it appeared to be accurate because the same model was used to predict yung sin tax naman.
And then you will still hit the target of 30 billion.
There are two reasons for that, ma'am. Number one is we are a growing population, almost 1.8 million more added to our population. Number two, our income is growing very fast. We are actually by next year upper middle income country. So even if we raise the excise tax, income is catching up. So yung affordability is still there. So that is why we are able to address both.
So you mean to say there's also that probability that consumption will also not decrease?
If it is not high enough.
So parang hindi rin siya technically a health measure because
if it is low enough, like the House version, the consumption will continue to increase. But if it is high enough at around 60 or higher, then the consumption will show a decline. But over time po kasi, if we don't adjust, the income will be growing, will be catching up. So affordable po. So hinahabol po natin. That's why we continuously have to adjust po.
Fast is our per capita income growing per year?
Per capita? Well, for instance po, Mr. Chair, the GDP growth of last year was 6.2%. our population growth, the latest estimate is, I believe, 1.8%. So per capita is 6.2 minus 1.8 is around, yeah, 4.4. No, yeah, around that.
Mr. Chair, can we request help from Dr.
Sorry,
Dance?
sir. One more point. That's in real terms, but if you add the inflation factor, that's almost 9% nominal growth in wages every year. Because real term.
Can you explain that? Because inflation is supposed to decrease your income.
How
can it increase your income?
Well, GDP in real terms, meaning inflation adjusted, that's the 6.2. But if we just look at the GDP na walang adjustment, that's 10%. So 10% minus the 1.8 is around 8.2% actual wage growth that we are seeing. But if we want to make sure lang na we remove the effect of inflation, it's still quite high, 4%.
Mr. Chair?
Sorry, just one more question. Sorry, with your indulgence, Senator Binay. Last year, the inflation for cigarettes after the train law was 20-something%. Tama ho ba? What will be the effect of this on the inflation figures?
Well, actually, Mr. Chair, what we found out was that the inflation effect of tobacco last year was 0.3%. So if the full year inflation, as we know, is 5.2, 0.3 of that is tobacco, but only 0.1 is strain. The other 0.2 is basically the better compliance following MITI.
What I saw from the figures given by NEDA and DOF was 20%.
Yeah.
Meaning of the, if across the board, the different basket of goods, it's a certain number, but rice and tobacco were higher than the other.
Yes.
Tama ho ba yun?
The 20% is the year-on-year growth.
Year-on-year growth.
Opo. But if we want to see what part of the 5.2 inflation is due to tobacco, it is 0.3.
I guess comparing apples to apples, what will be the year-on-year growth if we pass it at 60, at 50, at 70, at 90? I guess we want to consider all possible scenarios.
If a pack right now is selling, for instance, at 100, and we add the 25 peso per pack, kasi from 35 magiging 60, then that's around 25% growth. Depends on the pack kasi what is the price.
That's for 60, for 60.
Yes.
For
So
60 and for 60
kasi
tax.
we're adding the 35
Okay.
by 25. So
And how does that affect the overall figure? Because that's only a portion of it, diba? What is the, ano ba? Anong percentage niya of the total inflation?
let me come back.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair?
Mr. Chair, siguro habang nagko-compute si Sec.
Yeah.
Carl, can I just get data from Secretary Duque or Dr. Dance? Kasi na-mention nyo, sa 2018, we have 25 million smokers. When we implemented yung
2018, 23% ang smoking prevalence rate
which is
of adults of about 70 million. That would be about 15 million.
15. May data ho ba kayo from 2013, 2014, 2015, and 2016?
I believe so. We have the data. We can submit it
Can
to
you
you,
please
Your
submit?
Honor.
Baka rin ho, Dr. Dance, do you also have the data from 2013 until 2018?
Yes, Your Honor. We have survey results up to 2015 and projections up to 2018.
Can you please submit it to
Yes.
the committee? Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Senator Binay, we ask Secretary Duque to provide the data, please. Yeah, Vice Governor Albano.
Mr. Chair, one thing that we like to note with the DOF presentation is that there were 8 million cigarette smokers na nagbawas na since 2012, 2013, from 25 million to 17 million, and I hope the figures are right, no? Roughly about it. It shows that the decrease is really rampant, but if you increase the taxation now, and the trend is really, and the goal is really to eliminate smoking, then it is good, no? But if you want also additional money to be put in for the DOF, then you're killing the system, because this will give rise to so many problems. If the increase is really, really large as 60 pesos, I think that is projected in the bill. I think the House version is amenable to most of the stakeholders here at 30 35, 37 pesos, 37.50. This will also balance the fact that hindi ganun kalaki yung reduction ng smokers. So there are two goals here that are conflicting, Mr. Chair. Do you really want to address the situation? Because if we really want to address the situation, we just put a ban on smoking, and all these things are done. But this is a bigger problem, because the tobacco industry employs a lot of people, and we will have inflationary measures that are going to be very, very big. Hindi kaya ng system natin mag-abrupt to kill, to stop smoking. And I don't dispute the findings of the DOH, and I'm supportive because I'm asthmatic myself. But then again, we need to balance both na ilimit natin yung taxation, available naman yung mga tobacco farmers, wag lang patayin yung industry, because kung kumakonti yung consumers, kukonti din yung matatax na makukuha mo. And therefore, we appeal, Mr. Senator, with the findings of mismo the DOH and the DOF, using their statistics themselves, we appeal that the excise tax that should be given for this round should be not that big, because train just started, all these excise taxes started, which is good for one purpose, which is to mitigate smokers. But it is not good in raising the revenue and the target that you want, Senator Gatchalian. You said there's 200, almost 1 trillion na ang sinasabi nilang kasi conservative na yung 210 billion losses in economics dahil sa smoking, 1 trillion. Eh, paano mo babawiin yan kung ang trend mo from 25 million, 17 million in 6 years? In 6 years' time, kung another 10 million ang mawawala, 10 million na lang yung gagamit dyan, at the rate that you have, hindi epektibo na yung taxation na ilalagay niya, kasi bumabawas din yung gumagamit. So, kailangan ho natin balansin yung dalawa, at sana maglagay kayo ng measures also to help our tobacco farmers in the provinces of Ilocos Sur, Ilocos Norte, Cagayan, and all the Vice Gov,
you get a share from 71, di ba?
Yes, but only 50%.
So you benefit from...
Yes, that's right.
If there is a corresponding increase, there'll also be a corresponding increase in your share.
Yes, that's why we're alarmed, Senator, that kung kahit mag-increase kang ganyan, kung bumawas naman yung consumers, edi halos zero time game ang sinasabi ko.
Okay, we understand your point, sir. You're just saying it's a matter of finding the sweet spot.
Yes, sir.
Without killing the goose.
Yes, killing the goose that kills the golden egg. That helps the DOF fund its DOH fund its money to cure all these ills of smoking.
Mr. Chairman.
The point is very well taken. I think all taxation is about finding the sweet spot, honestly. You know, that's why we're here, and there's so many of us here. And with your indulgence, Dr. Dance, I'd like to hear from more of the body. I hope you don't mind, no? Dr. You know, there's a whole section here that has not been heard yet. So pagbigyan naman natin. Senator JV, yeah.
Mr. Chair, just like to know for the information of everybody, because of course we want to get the sweet spot, no? This should be good for health, and likewise also we have to also look at the of course our tobacco farmers, no? Nandun naman yun, hindi naman namin kayo gustong mawala ng trabaho. Of course we are also concerned. Just for the record, Mr. Chair, ito po yung no, para lang for the information of the committee. In 2010, yung sa RA 7171, nasa 4 billion lang ho yung 4.7 billion. But because of the sin tax increases, it gradually also increased, no? So 2010, 4.7 billion, 2011 naging 3.8. Ito na 2012, no? Bumalik siya ng 4.8 billion. On the first year of implementation of the sin tax, 2013, it became 10 billion, no? So from 4.8 billion, umakyat siya ng 10.1 billion. 2014, it's 11 billion. 2015, it's 14.6 billion. Siguro pwedeng i-confirm ni Yusek Cardo. 2016, it went down to 12.8 billion, and 2017, it's 14.4 billion. So, yun lang, for the record, Mr. Chair, I think the share also of the different concerned local government units likewise increase. So dapat matulungan din, dapat ito mapunta rin sa farmers. That we would want to find out also kung how it has helped our farmers. So kasi lumaki rin eh. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Senator JV, do you confirm the figures of Senator JV?
Yes. In fact, if I may add, there's also the contribution from 8240 apart from the 7171. Kasi 7171 is Virginia. Then there's additional 2.5 billion pa in 2017 for the native and burley.
But why the decrease? I'm curious. Why the decrease in 2016? What accounts for that?
I think that was because of the mighty problem, but that has been totally turned around na in 2018.
Okay.
Kasi 2 years pa yung lag. So 2017 is based on 2015. We had the mighty problem 2015-16. We addressed that in 2017. 2018 we collected more.
You're now collecting the correct, you said 2 billion a month, no?
We are in 2018, the average collection without the train increase is 2 billion more a month, so 24 billion.
That's so going forward. I'm just wondering how many years there were uncollected revenues. Have those been made up?
We are not sure, but the settlement of around 30 billion is supposed to make up for the past uncollected.
I think one of the worries is if we raise it, then you will have the enforcement problems again, which gave rise to a new mighty will come about. I think that's what some have raised. So we want to prevent that going forward.
That's a valid concern. So BIR actually with Secretary Dominguez has put it as the top priority.
Yeah. So I think accompanying this, there must be greater enforcement because the incentive to smuggle, as mentioned by Senator Bina, will increase.
Yes, sir.
So we have to address that.
The stamp tax also have been recently improved, so that the BIR can discuss if you wish.
Sige.
Would you like me, Mr. Chair, to answer Senator Bina's?
Of course, yes.
Basically, sir, the inflation effect, no? I think you were asking. Assuming po, ma'am, the price of a pack is 100, and we are increasing the excise by additional 25, kasi from 35 today to 60, that is 25% increase in the cigarette price. And since the share of cigarette in the consumption basket for inflation is only 0.9, so that will be additional 0.2 on top of whatever is the inflation. So if the inflation this year is 3%, because central bank says it's 2 to 4%, then it will be probably 3.2 because of sin tax. So very minimal po. Annually.
How about for the other figures, like if it's 70, could you just, you don't have to give it, can you just compute, please?
We can compute
just
by
submit na
brand,
lang.
yes.
Thank you. Senator Gatchalian, any more?
Mr.
Senator JV?
Chair,
Senator JV.
meron lang akong tanong kay Yusek Carl before we leave that, the same topic. Yusek Carl, would you say that yung pong consumption natin ng cigarette, no? And we had a significant increase of revenue because of the sin taxes. But people continue to smoke. So yung elasticity, ibig sabihin elastic to no? Even if you raise the taxes, people still continue to smoke. So hanggang ano yung tingin ninyong amount that yung elasticity hindi maapektuhan?
Mr. Chair, Senator, I'm just confirming the study of Senator Gatchalian and ours, but I was told by my staff hanggang 73 per pack yung hindi magre-reverse.
So at that rate, mababago na yung behavior. The elasticity will be...
Paglampas po sa 73.3
So
per
anything below that, you think it's still inelastic?
Yes po. That is what our preliminary model is showing.
So it's you still feel that it will not be really be affected, kumaga, hindi masyado. People will continue to smoke and thereby getting the intended revenue.
Well, some sectors may continue, some segments may continue, but the poor, the youth, those that are sensitive will definitely stop.
Kasi tumuloy pa rin di ba? Even if we increase significantly, people continue to smoke. Although there was a drop, but still yung production of tobacco continued. Ang concern namin ni Senator Gatchalian, what's the sweet spot? Kasi we would want to get the revenue, at the same time, also limit the smoking. So ano yung tingin ninyong sweet spot na ating yung tinitingnan?
Based on my staff's submission, 73 per pack is the So I think it's very close to Senator Gatchalian po.
Just a related point, Senator JV, since you're here and you shepherded very well the UHC. I understand from Secretary Duque and the USEC Carl's joint presentation earlier, you said that we need 40 billion for this year, additional 40 billion this year?
Yes, Your Honor.
Because the pronouncement during the hearings was in 2 years. We're okay for the next 2 years. And then in the third year is the problem. So I'm wondering what is the real state of affairs and why the conflicting statements?
Well, based on our computation, Mr. Chairman, is that for 2019, putative, supposed to be this is the first year of the implementation once passed into law. We have broken it down. The funding requirement is about 257 billion. And premium contributions or subsidies would amount to about 103.98 billion, capitation payment of about 49.35 billion. And the reason for this capitation is like one of the major shifts in paradigms when we implement the universal healthcare law is really capacitating and developing our lower level delivery units of primary care. No? So that's why capitation is a provider payment mechanism in response to the sustainability development and sustainability.
You explain that term capitation and what exactly we're talking about, sir.
It's a prepayment. Capitation is a provider payment mechanism. It is a prepayment mode. You give it to a facility. You assign X number of families around that facility. There's a catchment area. Say if it's like 5,000 individuals, that should be about 1,000 families. So you expect that those 1,000 families, any member of each of the families shall access the basic delivery facility. One of the weaknesses of our Philippine healthcare delivery system is really the lack of our basic delivery facilities. These are those that provide primary care services such as maternal care, postpartum care, such as newborn and child care services, adolescent care, health promotion and disease prevention interventions, and many more constituting the primary care services. So
sir,
we
slow
would
down,
like to
slow down,
strengthen
sir.
that. Yeah.
Please slow down. You said 1,000 families per catchment area. So the ideal, if with that 148 billion, how many, is that include building these catchment areas, the health facilities, or that's a separate item in the DOH budget?
That's a separate...
Where's that money going to go exactly, yung 148 billion?
Services, Your Honor, and then we have also for health workforce requiring 50 billion, thereabouts. The additional...
The 50 billion is included in the 148 billion?
No, it's not.
That's why.
That's right.
That's why I'm asking you to slow down, Secretary.
I can give you the list. Sorry.
Yeah, it'd be nice if you could flash it on the board. So because you're throwing out a lot of figures.
Yes, I'm sorry.
We'd like to know which ones are inclusive in what. Because you mentioned the figure of 257 billion needed for the first year of implementation of universal healthcare, and that's really one of the great concerns of the Senate. Then you threw out 103.9 billion for premium payments. You threw out 148 billion for capitation payments. Then now you're throwing out 50 billion. That's more than 257 billion already. So in a way, we're getting confused. So we'd like to be enlightened, sir, about the distribution of the 257. Because as I said, every peso counts at this point, and we want to look at it at both sides. We want to look at it from the revenue side, but we also want to look at it from the spending side.
Mr. Chairman, let me just clarify something here. The capitation, as I have said, it is 49 billion, not 149 billion. Yeah. So I hope that settles the issue.
Okay.
And then the infrastructure, I don't know what's happening with the... Yeah, okay. Ayan na, Mr. Chairman.
Sir, sino po sila? Patapusin mo natin si Secretary Duque, then I'll recognize you afterwards, sir. Okay?
So that's a breakdown, Mr. Chairman. As flashed on the screen, the total requirement for UHC first year of implementation, 257, broken down as follows: premium of 103, capitation of 49, infra of 23.49 billion, health workforce of 50.73 billion, governance and regulation of 29.99, for a total of the said amount. We can give you, in fact, an even granular breakdown of
Yes,
the
yes,
figures.
we'd like that,
Yes, we will do
Secretary. I
that.
think it's extremely
Certainly.
important.
Certainly.
And we'd like to go backwards, actually, because between 2012 and 2018, the DOH budget has also increased. So it's not only the syntax, but the DOH budget has also increased. So we'd like to monitor if that, if we are on the right track in terms of spending in the term with the DOH and also PhilHealth, because like I said, every peso counts. So could we ask you to submit to the committee your spending maybe from 2010 onwards for the DOH?
Gladly, we will provide you with the spending performance of the DOH and PhilHealth.
Yeah.
But let me just tell you, Mr. Chairman, that at this point, insofar as obligation rate as a metric of performance is concerned, we're pretty much on track. It's really in the disbursement side where there's some difficulty because of certain uncontrolled variables, which I can explain
I
later.
understand what you're saying, Secretary, no, but we're not really so much concerned with the obligation rate. That's more of a metric for the Finance Committee because they're concerned about efficient spending. But we want to measure it in terms of effectivity, in terms of health metrics. If you're building because lagging, we've noticed that a lot of times, like the NEA, for example, the Committee on Energy Chair is here. They keep saying kulang tayo ng ganitong number to be fully electrified. But every year, konti lang naman ang binabudget para ma-meet yung metric na yon. So I don't want a repeat case where we say we've only have hypothetically 18,000 or 42,000 barangays covered by basic health facilities, and yet we don't have a plan to meet the remaining 24,000 barangays. This is just a hypothetical, without judging on the accuracy of the figures. I'm just stating there must be a game plan to meet all of these metrics. So it's not the obligation rate, but it is the construction rate of facilities, it is the hiring, which are all the factors which go towards making an effective universal healthcare system. Yun ang sinasabi po natin, Secretary. And that's what we want to see when we ask you for the data for 2010. And we'll also ask you for PhilHealth President Ferrer 2010. Were you already in PhilHealth in 2010? I'm curious. Because Secretary Duque was already, when were you Secretary of Health? I know during the time of President Gloria, you were also the Secretary for some time, hindi ho ba?
Yes, sir. That's from 2005 to 2010.
20, and then you went to the CSC, I think, no?
Yes, you're
okay.
right.
So, but please bear with us when we ask for this data because we really have to make sure we make the right decisions here in finding the sweet spot, as so to speak, no? Thank you. Senator JV, you have more questions?
Probably doon lang sana, Mr. Chair, doon sa funding gap, we have to add there, the Senate added that yung sa HFEP and HRH as 24 billion, sinasama rin kasi yun sa computation, and another 18 billion was added as subsidy for universal healthcare. And for the first year, para lang yung gap ay mapunuan po ng natin to ensure that the first year the implementation will go through. So, yun lang po for the information of the body.
Thank you, Senator JV. So, could you explain, Secretary, or maybe what are these items? Could you explain to us? They're very big figures, no? So, can we break them down a little bit?
Well, as I've said, we'd be happy to give you the breakdown of all these figures. Premium is pretty much straightforward. It's the subsidy to the sponsored.
But when you say premium, how many persons, how many families?
We'll give you about. PhilHealth should have the figure.
Yeah. I think this is the best forum to hear it, but the doctors are here. They can.
45 million indigent beneficiaries or.
45 million indigent families.
Yes. Not families, but individuals.
Indigent individuals. Yeah. Okay.
That'll be roughly about 10 million families. more or less, including dependents, Your Honor.
Ayun naman hong capitation. What is that for, ho?
You know yung bayad doon sa mga lower level facilities.
Yeah.
Ito yung mga health stations, rural health units, city health centers, and also the district hospitals, which are given the capitation payments.
How many catchment areas do we have at present as we speak, Secretary?
Which are paid through the capitation.
Yes, which are paid through capitation.
Philhealth, may I ask Philhealth? It's about close to 1,500 facilities, Your Honor, existing, almost one per town or municipality.
Just a question on the, go back to the premiums. You mentioned 45 million individuals, Secretary.
Yes, sir.
How come is this from you? Did this come from you, this one?
May I take a closer look at it?
Kasi nakalagay dito 65 million individuals. So that's a gap, that's 20 million difference. That's quite substantial, no? It says cover all non-contributory, 65.2 million population at 3,500 per family per year.
Those are including uncovered. These are the lifetime in senior citizens.
Okay, okay.
So we'll give you a breakdown, Mr. Chairman.
So what is the 45 that you mentioned, sir?
This current indigent population covered under
Current
the
indigent population covered as we speak.
Yes, yes, Your Honor.
And you want to increase it to 65 million. Is that the correct interpretation of what you've given us?
Mr. Chairman, just a clarification that I'd like to raise is the listing that you have. May I just have a copy of this?
Maybe your staff can come and take a look because this is what we were given.
Can we have Philhealth?
It's from you daw. My staff says it's from the DOH, sir.
Ikaw na. The CEO.
Sure, certainly. We just want to really understand where the money is going and it's spent efficiently, Secretary.
45, yeah. Our indigents currently is 34,462,175. Then all those sponsored members will be actually indirect contributors, and this will be included around 3,282,849, senior citizens 9,411,033, and lifetime members 2,206,256, Your Honor. So, yes,
We lost track a little bit.
Yes.
The total of, are we talking about the same when you say indigent, non-contributory? Pareho ba yun?
Yes. Yes, sir.
So how come it says here 65 million ho? Parang kulang dun sa breakdown ho ninyo.
Kasama na po dito yung lifetime, senior, pati yung sponsored members po.
Yeah, well, the committee secretary is pointing out that the claim was that PhilHealth would address that with the first package of the tax reform. So, yeah, you would have universal coverage, no? Yeah. Can we just ask for the figures na lang para hindi tayo tumagal masyado? But we really want to go over the figures with a fine-tooth comb because we want, as I said, every peso counts at this point.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. We will provide you with a copy of this.
Yeah. And then you have the slide here of what we are spending on premiums, capitation, infrastructure. Could I get the 2018 figure, Secretary? Do you have it to flash for the body?
Yes, but we don't have it right now.
You don't have it right now?
We don't have it
okay,
right now.
sayang. Oo. How soon can you have it for us, sir?
Probably tomorrow.
Tomorrow, okay.
Yes,
okay.
So we'll send it through the committee secretariat.
It's all right, yeah. Thank you. We'd appreciate it at the soonest possible time, sir.
The right side of the slide, as you phase it, shows the funding sources as enumerated.
Yes, yes, that's the funding, no? But as I said, we want to address also the spending side, not just the revenue side, no? Because the spending obviously will have they will dictate the revenues needed.
Chair?
So again, we have to this 65.2 million. We'd like to really scrutinize that figure. What is that 65 million? Because yung binanggit niyo po, according to Senator Nancy, it only amounts to about 47 million. So there's an 18 million gap there. That, and then there's also the question of the train one. How much was spent out of the first package of revenues, no? Sige. How about CapEx, ho? Itong infrastructure. Yes, Senator Pino, I recognize you. Actually, sorry. Yeah. You were also going to ask about that. Yeah. Yung CapEx, ho, yung infrastructure. What could we get a breakdown of that, ho?
Yes, we will. Essentially, the CAPEX 23.49 billion will be the construction of additional lower-level facilities. Right now, we have a little under 50% of all barangays with health stations. So we're talking about a gap of about a little over 50%.
Yeah.
And
I'd like to hear the figures in absolute terms, Secretary Duque, because you have here ratios, and I appreciate that very much, that you say one barangay health station per barangay, one RHU per 20,000 population, and one hospital bed per 800 population. But in terms of absolute terms, meaning of the universe of barangays, sana ho tayo? And what is the roadmap to get us there?
Well, as I have said, Your Honor, that about we need about 50% more in terms of barangays that still don't have.
So ilan po sa bilang natin? Ilang barangay ho yun?
Mga 22,000.
Do you have the list ho of the?
Yes. Okay. Can we just give it to you?
Yes, of course, Secretary.
Okay. We'll give it to you gladly, Mr. Chairman.
So you need to construct 50% of barangay health stations pa.
That's the target, Your Honor.
Okay.
But also, the DOH is looking at the possibility of identifying family clinics in the private sector, which we might be able to just accredit instead of reinventing the wheel and constructing additional health stations. If the private sector capacity is already there, then we might as well just make use of those private sector capacities.
That's a very sensible proposition,
Yes,
Secretary. I was thinking in Metro Manila, you know, in Manila, for instance, the city of Manila, one street is one barangay. So maybe we can dispense already with the requirement of one barangay health station because maglakad naman sila ng 5 o 10 minuto. May barangay. Don't we want to cluster some barangays?
You're right. That's the direction we wish to pursue. But again, in terms of ratio and proportions, we're looking at making sure there's a health station for every 5,000 population in a given barangay. Ostensibly, Quezon City barangays are as large as a 5th, 6th class provinces and municipalities.
That's right.
So we need
so that's why the allocation of resources becomes even more important, that you don't over allocate to those who don't need it and you shift it to those who need it, as you mentioned in QC, in Caloocan, where these huge barangays are, San Jose del Monte, etc.
And part of the direction the DOH wishes to pursue is really to prioritize geographically isolated and disadvantaged areas, so the GIDA areas are more commonly referred to, as well as the upland barangays of the 4th, 5th, 6th class municipalities, where some of our resource speakers have eloquently stated that there are many poor countrymen of ours who die without ever seeing a doctor, and that's about 60% of the population, is that right? In those upland and geographically isolated barangays.
Sir, could we add to our request the amounts spent by the DOH for all of these, for CAPEX in the since 2010? We go back.
We will do that, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah. What is the cost of one BHS, by the way?
Roughly, a health station would cost about 1.4, 1.6 million.
Ay, sige. Thank you, Vice Governor. 1.4, 1.6 million. Would you know in the last, since 2016, how many we've constructed? Or at least since the syntax law was created?
Well, as far as my recollection, we have from 2016, out of about 5,700 planned health stations to be built, only 270 barangay health stations got built.
Why is that?
Well, a lot of problems, which is in fact, a subject of a separate investigation that is conducted by the chairman on the Committee on Health in the Senate, that is.
Yes, sir. Senator.
Ito ba yung project that was done by the previous secretary? Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Well, yeah, we we don't want to get into that. That's malalim mo yan. We start talking about the previous secretary. We just talk institutional allotments, Your Honor. Basically, we want to see where's the light at the end of the tunnel, and what's the quickest way to get there. That's what we're doing here, Mr. Secretary. No.
Primary health care.
And what's the role of the LGUs here? Because in previous, a decade ago, when we didn't have the syntax, the LGUs were the ones who paid for the premiums of the PhilHealth. Sila yung magbabayad ho niyan. Now, they've been relieved of that burden because of because of the taxes we've raised. And so, what is their role? Hindi ba dapat partner sila dito sa sa pag-construct nitong mga health facilities? Because health has been devolved, at least theoretically, no, under the local government code. So what's the role? And how many have been constructed? Like, why not ask the rich cities to construct their own health centers? I'm sure Valenzuela is willing to do it because they're a very progressive city, Secretary.
I think there's really no problem when it comes to the LGUs that can afford it, but it's really the problem of most LGUs who cannot afford it, and we have a lot more of them. In fact, those from 4th, 5th, and 6th class municipalities. And so you're right, the UHC, in fact, intends to address this particular challenge where the LGUs have manifested either a lack of a sense of prioritization. It's not necessarily because they lack the budgets or the funding support, but maybe it is also a problem of misprioritization, Mr. Chairman. So we need to sit down with a lot of our counterparts in the LGUs and really make it very clear to them that as a driver of social transformation, health prioritization must be at the top of their development agenda, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Secretary. That's very good. What's the average cost of an RHU?
RHU is about 13 million, 12 to about 14 million.
12 to 14 million?
Yes, Your Honor.
And what is the ideal here if you have one RHU for 20,000 population? And what is the difference between a BHS and an RHU? Wouldn't they overlap at some point?
I think at the planning stage, we should be able to address possible overlaps. And that's why it's very important that we do an honest-to-goodness, accurate mapping of all of those basic facilities to prevent wasteful overlapping and redundancies of services.
Yeah. That's all well and good, Secretary, but again, we go down to brass tacks and we need the numbers. How many barangay health stations are there in the country today?
Probably about 20,000, Mr. Chairman, roughly.
Do you have a list of
yes,
locations?
We do.
Yeah, we'll ask for that, Secretary.
And with a gap of about 22,671 more barangays needed. But as I've said,
You have the list also of the barangays who don't have it.
Yes,
we'll ask for that also,
yes, Your Honor,
Mr. Secretary. And
Yes,
how do you plan to prioritize between the 22,000? The construction?
Well, we're looking at the GIDA areas. We'll bring in the infra. We'll bring in the human resource complement. to operate those health stations, and also a logistics and supply chain management to connect. Your Honor, may I just take this opportunity to elucidate a bit further the development of SDNs. These are the service delivery networks, where at the downstream of delivery of primary care, you have the health stations, then you have the rural health units, then you have the health centers, whether component or chartered cities, and then you have the district hospitals constituting the midstream delivery level, and then you have the provincial hospitals levels 1 and 2, and then you have in the upstream, you have the DOH retained regional medical centers, and ultimately you have the apex hospitals consisting of the heart, lung, kidney, and children's hospital. So it's essentially a 6 or 7 level of service delivery networks that we need to develop. Not that we don't have the facilities to provide, but the acute need is in the JIDA areas. And so this will be the focus of our first year of implementation should the bill be signed into law, and which we are confident the President will indeed sign into law. But we also need to develop also the private sector SDN, because we believe we are a staunch believer of public and private sector capacity complementarity or complementation. So if we can identify family clinics at the lower level in the barangays, private sector run, we'll just accredit them, Mr. Chairman, and then let them deliver the services in accordance with the set standards of care at each level of the facilities within the SDNs of the public sector.
Thank you for that. You've really helped us, Secretary, with that elucidation in terms of the hierarchy of health providers. But could we get a detailed breakdown of the 23.49 billion? That's a lot of money, and we'd like to see exactly how many barangay health stations that will be, exactly how many rural health units that will be, exactly how many hospitals or health centers, district, provincial hospitals, medical centers, etc. we plan to build with that money, 23.49 billion, Mr. Secretary.
We'll give you the list perhaps tomorrow, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, and also the locations. How will you prioritize, and to make sure the money is effectively spent, no? So functionally, how would you differentiate, or how do they relate to each other? A BHS to an RHU, for instance.
The BHS will be responsible for delivering a basic menu of primary care services. This would include, of course, there will be overlaps in terms of services, but essentially this will include maternity care, postpartum care,
birthing.
RHUs will be largely responsible for deliveries, normal deliveries, and basic laboratories. We will provide immunization services, also health promotion and disease prevention interventions, and the capacity to address minor illnesses, making sure that precisely we would like to catch them early on rather than wait until their conditions deteriorate, which will then require a higher cost of health care. Because remember that as you go up the service delivery network, the cost escalates. Even for the same service that can actually be provided by the lower delivery units, you're going to escalate your costs once you bring them for the same services to the higher level facilities. So that's one of those that we wish to address as soon as the UHC is implemented, Your Honor. So really a lot of fundamental changes in the way healthcare is delivered in this country. And the UHC will hopefully, certainly will address this, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Secretary. But how many RHUs do we have in the country currently?
About 1,400, thereabouts, Mr. Chairman.
Serving what percentage or how many people?
Well, a total 2,154 RHUs are needed, and of that we have...
Say that again, sir. How many?
2,154, Your Honor.
Are needed.
Are needed.
Okay. So you have a list of where you will construct these RHUs?
There's a mapping, Your Honor. There is
we'll
a
ask
list.
for that. We'll ask for that list, Mr. Secretary, and the prioritization again going forward.
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you.
So if you have 1,400, that's times 20,000 per per health unit. Tama ho ba yun?
Your Honor.
Okay.
20,000 population.
Right,
Your
right.
Honor.
We'd like to acknowledge Senator Gordon, the chairman of the Blue Ribbon Committee. How much did you spend on CapEx for 2018, Secretary?
Can I just have my staff?
Yes, certainly.
yes, thank
Certainly. Whoever can provide the answer, Your Honor. Can we, I think we've been here for 2 hours sitting. I think it's not healthy, no? Since we have the DOH Secretary, can we call a 2 or 3 minute break with the indulgence of the stakeholders? I think everyone will appreciate it. Oh, thank you. I'll see you in 3 minutes, ladies and gentlemen.
Kailan stop na ako? Hindi ko naman alam kung ano. Kung ano. Oo nga. Wala nga. Parang ano siya eh, no? Parang hindi siya. Oo nga eh. Ano ko we're together, no? Go ahead. Congress. Good luck.
Parang kanina manipis niya, it's too much. Parang
Correct.
using 260, parang it's so much.
Punta na ako lang. Gather break, kaya ka?
Can we, ladies and gentlemen, can we settle down a little bit? Can we ask people to settle down so we can resume the meeting? Yeah, can we ask people to sit down, take their seats, Your Honors? Galit siya si Chavit, pare. Thank you. Let's resume the meeting, Your Honors, ladies and gentlemen. There was a pending question when we suspended, and that was the amount of capital expenditure for 2018 for health facilities, much needed health facilities.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. The capital outlay for 2018 of the DOH is 31 billion 463 million, and the obligation is 29 billion 176 for a 93% obligation rate.
Yes, could you break that down for us?
Yes.
How many BHS did you construct? How many RHUs? How many health centers? How many district hospitals or beds did you add, etc., so forth?
Yeah, we will do that, Mr. Chairman.
Don't have it with you,
We don't have
Secretary?
it right now, but we are willing to give you a breakdown.
Okay, we'd appreciate it the next meeting that you have it, Secretary.
Yes, sir.
How about for the, let's leave the question of CapEx since it's, I think you need to get the more detailed numbers. Let's go to the question of health workforce or,
Chair?
yes,
Siguro before we go
Senator Nancy.
dun sa health workforce, gusto ko lang malaman yung paano ho yung magiging absorptive capacity po ng DOH in their construction of all these
Well,
infrastructure.
mukhang maganda naman ang obligation nila. They did 93%. So, maybe we'll need to study the increase. How of what percent, if you get the 23.5 billion, Secretary, how many percent does that represent of a jump in terms of your capital outlay?
Well, that's a decrease, actually, because we were operating on a 31 billion budget for 2018.
But this is just from universal health care, hindi ho ba? This is just from tobacco tax. But when you mention your, we're not exactly talking about apples to apples here because
Yes.
you're talking about your budget, which is funded not just from tobacco tax.
Yes.
So let's be clear about
Okay,
that, no?
sure.
Oo. Let's so what is your question, Senator Nancy?
How do
Kasi,
we,
Mr.
how do
Chair,
we
hindi
spend?
ba, you got a cut of 16 billion? Kasi nga, because there's...
Which we want to restore, actually.
Which
So,
we restored. Kasi nga, may issue ho kayo dun sa capacity to construct. So, gusto ko malaman, because this is a big amount, 23.49 billion, kung kakayanin nyo ho ba talagang ma-construct yung mga ganitong klase ng infrastructure.
Your Honor, the construction of the lower level primary care facilities is much easier and takes a shorter time rather than constructing a multi-story building for secondary and tertiary care, essentially tertiary care. So the absorptive capacity should be a lot better, a lot more efficient, Your Honor, because maliliit na mga health stations lang ito.
Oo nga, pero Secretary, di ba dito rin ho tayo nagka-problema during the previous Secretary? Di ba Barangay Health Center supposed to be yung programa na yun, pero hindi rin ho natapos at ngayon nga may problema.
Oo. Well, that was the previous secretary. Well, I was also a previous secretary of health, so I just want to make sure I'm not that previous Secretary of Health. So I just, well, it's the two secretaries past, you know. So I will ensure you, Your Honors, that this will not happen under my watch.
And likewise, to add, if I may add, the 2017 budget for HFL was 30 billion. For 2018, no? For 2019, supposedly catch-up year, kaya nga dapat wala, but the Senate added about 17 billion for those that are 70, 80%, up to 100% complete, just to make sure that these health facilities will be completed and will be operated. So kaya kalahati lang po ang dinagdag ng Senado. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator JV, Senator Nancy. Any questions on CAPEX? We'll go to health facilities now. Itong pong 50.7 billion for 2019, what exactly does that represent, Secretary?
There on the slide, Mr. Chairman, the 50.7 billion to fund the health, human resource for health. This is going to fund the workforce that we will deploy under the HRH deployment program of the DOH to the local government health facilities, and mostly those who will man or operate the lower level facilities, health stations, rural health units, health centers, where there's a gap in the HR complement.
Mr. Chair, with your indulgence, one
Yes,
is to
please,
one na
Senator
ho ba yung ano natin? One doctor per barangay health center ho ba tayo? Or is it one doctor per RHU?
Your Honor, the staffing pattern for a health station is one nurse and one midwife per health station. RHUs, you will have two doctors, med techs, nurses, midwives, and other ancillary services, Your Honor, to operate a higher level health unit.
So yung barangay health centers, no doctors to?
Wala. Kailangan lang ho dito yung nurse and midwives.
Where are we in terms, again, I'm asking for a roadmap, Mr. Secretary, and where are we in terms of staffing of public facilities, and where do we want to go? And I noticed there are no ratios here. Why is that?
In the health stations nationwide, we need 22,671 nurses and 2,267 midwives. Now, for the RHU, we have...
Sorry, before you go to the RHU, just to break down those figures. So I understand the 22,000 nurses because you don't have the health stations, tama ho ba?
That's right.
How about the 2,000 midwives? Because you mentioned earlier that the ideal is one midwife per health station. So shouldn't it also be 22,000 midwives?
No, but there are already existing midwives.
And you will just assign them there?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Yes, Senator Gordon.
Just a quick question. What happened to the health stations? Where so many billions, I think about 11 billion or something.
8.2 billion was budgeted in 2016, Your Honor.
You mentioned the vaccine. Is that the total loss?
No, Your Honor. About 1.2 billion pesos was released as a mobilization fund, and the rest are intact with the Land Bank of the Philippines, Your Honor.
We don't mind getting new taxes and helping our people. Pero kung meron tayong perang ganyan kalaki, tapos mawawala, tapos walang mangyayari, ano sasabihin ng tao? Babayad tayo ng taxes, tapos danakawin lang. Ninakaw ba yun?
It's a subject of litigation right now. Well,
No, I'm not asking a subject of litigation. The Department of Health is given a budget. I don't care who the secretary is. When you're given a budget, dapat gastusin mo yung perang yan. Ang tanong ko, simple lang, papunta tayo ron. Ginastos po ba yung perang yan?
Hindi ho.
Hindi. Lumabas po ba yung perang yan sa budget?
Lumabas sa budget, pero ang disbursement 1.2 billion. So yung rest, which is about 6.8, mga 6.8, it's intact with the Land Bank of the Philippines.
Nasa land bank pa.
Nasa Land Bank pa.
Sa makatuwid, tinatanong kanina ni Senator Binay, ay hindi nagagastos, binibigyan kayo ng pera. Pag hindi mo ginastos, sayang yung pera. Tama po ba yan?
Tama po kayo.
Tapos sa walang patay ng 1.8 billion. What did the Department of Finance and the Department of Health and the Ombudsman and the Department of Justice do to those people na nagnakaw niyan?
Meron na hong fraud audit ang COA at ang...
Well, we know that. We have that in the Senate. In fact, sawa-sawa na ako mag-imbestiga eh. Tapos babatol sa DOJ, magkakaladkad na naman tayo kung kailan gagawin yon. Ang tinatanong ko, kung kayo ang binigyan ng pera, nangihingi kayo ng pera, dapat meron kayong obligasyon sa tao na pag nakolekta niyo yung pera, gagastusin yung pera ng wasto. At pag hindi ginastos ang pera ng wasto, tatagayin nyo kagad yan. Kasi hindi maniniwala ang tao magbayad ng tax eh. Di ba? So to me, it's a condition sine qua non to me. Magbabayad tayo, mabibigyan kayo ng pera, tapos hindi gagastusin. Kahit anong pakita nyo, magandang gagawin dito. Kayo ang tanong kanina, meron bang doktor sa bawat barangay? 6 out of 10 Filipinos would never see a doctor until now? Is that correct? 6 sa loob ng 10 Pilipino, hindi makakakita ng doktor, mamamatay. Tama?
Sa mga GIDA areas.
Kaya nga, so pag nagbigay tayo ng pera ngayon, dapat yung pera yan aabot. Di ba? I-implement. Yun ang tanong ni Senator Binay kanina. Paano nyo ma-assure ang Kongreso na aabot? Sapagat maganda magkaroon tayo, maganda ang ating pumapasok sa kabambayan, pero kung mawawala sa pera, katulad sa dengue vaccine, nawala dito sa mga so-called health stations at marami pang iba, eh talagang nakakahina ng loob magbigay ng buwis sapagat umaangal rin yung mga retailer. Tabi ko yung retailer, pagpasok ko doon, umiyak na kagad sa akin yung isang tao doon eh. Ang kanilang kapital para magbenta ng sigarilyo, lalaki. Tapos magbebenta sila, pero ang yumayaman, yung smuggler, yumayaman, yun ang nangungurakot. I'm sorry, I'm coming from the Blue Ribbon. I just have to say, pag manghingi tayo ng pera, dapat aabot at meron kayong ipapaliwanag na aabot. Sabagat dapat ang gawin natin ngayon, talagang kumita ang gobyerno, pero dapat aabot yung pera. Pag hindi umabot, mahirap. Sir? So, anong ginagawa ng DOH? You should put pressure on DOJ to go after these people. Wala kaming time dito sa ako nauubos ang oras ko sa Blue Ribbon, imbestiga na imbestiga. May naman nakukulong na, marami na nakukulong, pero we cannot spend the time of the Senate. We'd rather spend the time of the Senate, iniisip ko paano kayo matutulungan kaysa naghahabol. Trabaho ng executive yan, nahabulin yung mga nagnakaw ng pera ng kabambayan. Right? At trabaho ninyo, kung hindi nyo nagagastos yan, huwag kayong maghingi. Kailangan, siguruhin nyo, magagastos yung pera. Sapagkat, sabi nga ni Senator Jokno, within 1 year, kailangan gastos yung pera. Pero yun ang solusyon niya. Pag nagbigay ka ng budget, pero hindi magagawa yan, magagalit ang tao. Di ba ba? So, yun lang ho. So, ang conclusion ko rito, hindi nagagastos yung pera, nawawala pa, tapos humihingi pa tayo ngayon ng dagdag, you really have to convince me to do so. Because I'm for reducing cancer, lung diseases, and everything like that. But, if the money isn't going to go there anyway, then you may as well give it to welfare officers who are going to be watching over our kids so that they don't commit crime. So, hindi pinag-aawain nyo ikukulong ang bata. Dahil ayaw namin ikulong yung bata, gusto namin welfare officer. Baka doon dapat ilagay yung pera. Doon sa mga guidance counselor. Pero lumalawig na ako. Ganun ang problema namin dito, yung balancing act eh. So yun lang po. Thank you very much, Mr. Senator.
Thank you. I thought I was in a Blue Ribbon committee hearing. Thank you.
I think you better adjust your mind because hindi, makikigulo ko talaga sa akin.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator Gordon. So, since Senator Nancy raised the issue of the pending 6.2 billion, Secretary, that's in Land Bank right now. Is that correct?
Yes, and much as we would like to already revert this to the Bureau of Treasury for reallocation, there's a case now that's pending. So we are waiting for the resolution of that case before the SIAC, the Construction Industry Arbitration Committee, and the amount that should rightly go to the contractor will be determined by the SIAC with the final approval of the COA. So while the case is being heard, the amounts, the money that has been mentioned is locked in for the moment.
Is the case been submitted for decision?
I think it's ongoing with the SIAC, Your Honor.
Any idea of what stage it is? Because if it's in a later stage, then we can, at least for year one, we can factor in that money.
There are ongoing hearings. In fact, there's one scheduled next week. We can ask our lawyers to find out.
Maybe just an update,
Yes,
so we don't take too long on that.
We'll give you a one-pager
Thank you.
report.
Thank you,
on
Secretary. Yeah, Senator Binay.
Sir Chair, siguro magkano ho ba yung hinahabol ng kontratista?
They're running after almost the entire amount, putting all these crazy costings of delivery, of mobilization. You know, they're putting everything there. Their strategy is to really charge for everything, which is really, that's why we did not agree one bit with their proposal.
So, technically ho, yung 6.2 billion, ito ho yung hinahabol ng contractor.
Yes,
in spite of the
yeah.
fact na wala naman ho talaga silang, natapos ho ba nila yung trabaho nila?
Hindi nga ho, 270 lang ho ang kanilang natapos. And that is already a subject of investigation by the Committee on Health.
Who is this contractor, Secretary?
J. Bros, which is also, I understand, same people who own the J.D. Legazpi.
So hindi na tinapos, tapos kinasuhan pa yung gobyerno. Sila
Ah,
pa yung galit, kumbaga.
As a SIAC, yun ang kanilang minamuestra.
Masiba, in other words.
Pero tayo ho, did we file cases against them?
Yes, Your Honor, it's with the NBI and the Ombudsman. So, tagal.
Okay, I think we're running out of time for today, but can you give us a brief roadmap for the health personnel, Your Honor?
The health personnel requirement under the UHC, we're talking about RHU would be a total of about 4, 8, 6, 12, 16, 23, about 45,000 RHU staffing pattern workforce.
How are these permanent positions, Secretary?
No, right now the way
Yeah.
they are employed is in the nature of a job order and some others as contractuals.
So yung 50.73, how many people does that represent?
50.73 billion.
Billion, yeah. That's your item for personal services. Huh? Is that totally new items, or that's inclusive of the current contractuals of the DOH?
I believe it's a combination of those that you need to sustain while they're employed, but largely also.
So is it new, or is it
Mostly
both new
so-
and existing?
Mostly new, according
Mostly
to
new.
mostly new.
But
yes.
so when you say mostly new, some are existing already.
Yes, Your Honor, that's
Okay.
right. But the
DOH budget for 2018? How much I put on the spot? What was the DOH budget for 2018, Secretary?
The budget of DOH for 2018 was about 170 billion.
170 billion. Now, I'm just wondering because, you, in answer to my question, you said that 50.73 represents both new and existing personnel.
But mostly new.
But when we talk about 257 billion, which is the universe of new funds needed, I'm wondering why you included existing personnel, because you already have a budget for that, di ba? That's already accounted for in the DOH budget, which
But
is
the budget for the
incidentally
whole
has
year.
also been increasing every year.
Yes.
So
But that's
parang
a-
kung mga may double counting tayo. And that's, we're trying to avoid that, di ba?
I
Because we
don't
really
think
want
so.
to know what are the new needs and what are the new funds we need to fund those new needs.
Okay, we will do
so
that.
parang
Yes.
may overlap, may fudging eh. So
Yeah, okay. So we'll do that.
Can we be clear about that? So we really know how much we really need.
I took note of it,
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman,
Okay.
and we'll give the clarification soon.
So as not to delay so as to have a faster proceedings. Can I just ask you the question and ask you to give us the answers? So I'd like to know how many current employees does the DOH have? How many are permanent? How many are existing or contractual? And how many will be hired under this item of 50.70 billion? How many are nurses? How many are midwives? And so on. So we'll ask for that information, Secretary.
We'll do that, Your Honor.
Thank you. And you have a 30 billion item for expanded regulation, strengthening evidence-based decision-making. That's a very short description for a lot of money. Could you tell us what that is?
Can you just, Your Honor, can I just request Yusek Domingo to respond to the...
Whoever can provide the answers, Your Honor.
Yeah, so your regulation, kasi we're going to have to change. There's going to be a shift. We're going to regulate not only the facilities individually, but also as members of a service delivery network. So magkakaroon po talaga ng bagong structure and a new capacity building for our health regulatory facilities. And yung pong technology assessment, it's a big part, a big chunk of the universal healthcare law is health technology assessment. It means that we have to build capacity such that every time we want to put in a new program, for example, a new intervention, or just buy a new drug, it has to go through a complete assessment to see if it's cost effective, if it's affordable, if it's acceptable, before we even decide to give it to the public. So
Is that the job of the FDA?
No, sir. The FDA is only for safety and efficacy of medicines. But health technology assessment is really assessing the value of any given new intervention or new drug. So before we even consider it or make it a part of the services or products that we deliver to the public, it has to go through this. And a health technology assessment unit is one of those that will be created under the universal healthcare law.
Okay, but could you tell us where the money will be going in terms of health technology assessment? What are we buying here? Are we buying services? Are we buying software, hardware? What is it?
So it's really setting up a new office and then hiring new people and then coming up with networks with the academe and the specialty societies. We will give you a breakdown, Mr. Chair. Of
When you say hiring new people, so these are people outside of the staffing or may overlap na naman yan sa PS? Because you're asking for 50.7 billion for personal services. So I assume so you're saying you're hiring new people under the 29.9 billion item?
Yes, Mr. Chair. The health workforce is really health human resources.
Ilan po yung,
doctors.
ilan yung hire nyo dito sa regulation, expanded regulation po ninyo?
Well, I don't have the list right now, but we will submit to you the plan for the HTA unit and the expanded regulation.
Okay, I'm just a little surprised because we're pressed for time and we're supposed to pour over these details and yet you don't have the details for such an important or a big item, 29 billion,
Excuse me, Mr. Senator.
Yeah.
Just to follow up on that, Eric, no? Hindi ba yung ginagawa nyo, ang tawag nyo, health
technology assessment.
Health technology assessment.
Yes, sir.
But that was already there. Yung nga nakita natin doon sa dengue vaccine investigation. Nung araw, kasi para ma-prevent yung nililigawan kayo ng mga supplier, nagiging supply-driven, hindi needs-driven. So, kailangan nyo itong grupong ito para sisiguruhin nyo ito yung tamang ilalapat na gamot at ilalako para matanggap ng publiko na safe sila, di ba? But you had that before. Remember, Secretary Dugue asked you, meron kayong executive committee within the department na hindi ginamit. They went forum shopping to those who would agree and they did not follow the rules. Di ba? Meron kayong talagang tikasala niyan eh.
Yes, Mr. Chair, but that one was particularly only for vaccines. Yun pong
Ito, totality na.
Po ito lahat. Any new drug or any new equipment or any new intervention, any new procedure or vaccine that the Department of Health before you can decide to deliver it, part of the service delivery package to the public, it has to go to a health technology assessment.
Alright.
Yun po yung requirement ng bagong
Hindi
law.
ba may overlap yon, vaccines and medicines? Are they totally exclusive of each other, mutually exclusive?
No, sir, lahat, they're all included. Vaccines and our medicines, they're considered medicine.
Right, but I think the point of Senator Gordon is, may pera na kayo for that vaccine. So my point naman is, if they're not mutually exclusive, then yung cost nyo dito, kahit pa paano, nako-cover na siya ng existing budget, di ba?
Hindi po, kasi yung talagang ating, body natin, which used to evaluate the vaccines, we're really just vaccine experts. Now we need a body, for example, for medicines, a body for medical equipment, a body for a different group to evaluate certain surgical procedures, for example, and it will be for everything.
Mr. Senator, with your permission.
Go ahead, Senator.
Tama kayo, no? Dapat talaga evaluate. Pero meron na kayo dyan sa FDA, yung gamot ina-evaluate yan di ba? Ang mangyayari niyan, dati na kayo meron, my point kanina is, meron na kayo dati na talagang sentinel to see to it that what you're buying is the right thing. And it has to go through that as part of your procedure. What did you call that before?
The Executive Council.
That's correct.
At EC.
Formulary Executive Council.
Yes,
Now, when you do something like this now, ang sinasabi lang ni Undersecretary Bingo, and I sympathize with him to a certain extent, because yung ibang equipment, yung ibang kailangan, kulang pa. Ang sinasabi naman ni Senator Angara, meron na kayo yung formulary, may budget na yan dati, so ang laki-laki na naman ang hinihingi nyo. Dapat, tama lang, sapat lang.
Your Honor, part of the expense would be the IT component. The IT, information technology. Because
software.
Yes, yung software, kasi kung magtatayo po tayo ng mga SDN, the Service Delivery Network, we have to have a database of all of the citizens who will enroll for, say, in the health station. Tapos kung magkakaroon ng patient pathway navigation, kailangan yung infrastructure ng IT naka-underpin yun throughout the SDN. 7 levels yung SDN natin Rural Health Unit, health stations, Rural Health Unit, City Health Centers, district hospitals, provincial hospitals, DOH retained hospitals, and then the specialty medical apex hospitals.
As you're saying that, let me just interject very shortly, Mr. Chairman. In India, they have utilized, there's a center, distance medicine. Ang tawag doon, there's a
telemedicine.
Yeah, telemedicine. I'm trying to describe it para maintindihan tayo nung nakikinig sa atin. Malayo ang doktor, ando sa taas, at pupunta doon sa sinasabi mong 7 layers para makatipid tayo at humaba yung PC natin sa perang bibigay sa inyo. Makakatawag doon at evaluate nila. Kasi pakita mo lahat yung x-ray, pakita lahat yung evaluation. Pagdating doon sa taas, meron silang eksperto. Yan ba yan? Pwede bang isama yan dyan?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Precisely
may mga
how
expert
well
dito
you
sa
put
taas.
it. Yes.
Sabihin, huwag ka na pumunta dyan sa doktor na yan. Dito ka pumunta sa doktor na ito at doon ka tutulungan ng universal healthcare o ng mga kailangan natin.
We will also avoid wasteful redundancies. Kasi nangyayari ngayon, magpapa-check up sa baba, pagpunta sa higher level facility, check up ulit of the same. So yung mga laboratory results, x-ray, CT scan, dadaling na lahat.
You're so correct.
The system.
Ang problema, kumisan, meron general practitioner, pakikilaman yung specific discipline na kailangan. Kaya doble ang gastos ng tao, nagpapamasahe, nagpupunta doon sa kwan. Samantalang, kung meron kayong overview o oversight, yung sinasabi natin telemedicine na malayo man, automatic, dapat sasabihin, eto ang sakit, titignan kung tama ang pupuntahan nung nagtitingin doon sa sakit, di ba? Para hindi naman na pabalik-balik yung tao, pupunta doon sa provincial capital, pupunta dito sa rural doctor, dapat doon pala sa baba, nahagip nyo na. Kung ganyan yan, I'm fully supportive. Pero kung hindi naman, you are repeating the mistakes of the past. Di ba? That's all I want to say. Because we want to make sure that the money you collect really goes to the people. Hindi yung kung saan pupunta. At maraming sayang.
Mr. Chairman, I'll give you my assurance. We'll give you the breakdown of this governance and regulation budget.
Yes, sir. But we want to ask a question related to what Senator Gordon said. You pointed out there are 6 or 7 levels of service delivery. So what is the vision for computerization or technology at the most basic level? Are you saying you're going to put a personal computer or a laptop in the barangay health center?
Yes, absolutely.
Wala namang security guard yun. Alam mo sa public schools po natin, ninanakaw ho yung mga computer kapag walang security guard.
Wi-Fi.
Kung mga tablet lang naman, lower...
So iuwi ho yun nung nurse?
There has to be an accountability, clear accountability standards that we will impose.
Yeah. So you're saying you're going to buy tablets with 29 billion. That's part of it. Sige, we'll ask for the breakdown na pandi tayo tumagal masyado dito, Secretary. Thank you. Senator JV, did you want to ask anything? Okay, we have a lot of resource persons left. Can we hear from the Philippine Tobacco Growers Association, Mr. Saturnino Distor? Ay, sir, nagsalita na yata kayo last hearing, ano?
Yeah.
Sige, kung hindi, if you don't mind, I'll recognize someone else. Okay lang ho ba?
Thank you.
We have the retailers here, Philippine Amalgamated Supermarkets, Mr. Steven Kua, sir.
Good afternoon, Chairman and the honors. What's happening right now, without any bias to any of the stakeholders here, in the retail sector, is that because of the high cost or the high price of cigarettes, hindi na illicit cigarettes ang pinapasukan ng ibang syndicates, ginagawa nila cigarette packs with corrugated cartons inside and selling it. And we cannot open each and every pack when it arrives in our stores, right? So when we sell it to the smaller retailer, they return it to us, karton ng laman. Which, yes, karton po, as in karton, same weight eh. Talagang mineasure na eh, same weight. Corrugated carton boxes inside. It's not cigarettes. So, to the detriment of retailers, and of course we can't return it sometimes to the manufacturers, so that's what's happening because of the high price of cigarettes. So kumbaga, next best trade to hindi naman illegal drugs, but next best trade or gimmick, yun ang ginagawa nila ngayon. That's what's happening. Now for the retailer side, kaya naiipit kami. And then for the retailer side, because of the low margins we attach to cigarettes, in particular, and the high cost of inventory for cigarettes, some retailers might be having second thoughts on carrying cigarettes. I'm sure the doctors will be very happy, but the manufacturers and the employees of these establishments will be hard hit, when that happens, because cigarettes will find their way into the market, but kapag nabawasan ang supermarkets which carry cigarettes, medyo, it will do harm to the industry quicker than we think, because of higher taxes. Yun lang po.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kua. Can we hear from the kapisanan ng Sari-sari stores, Mr. Francis Manuel?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman.
Good afternoon.
I would like to tell you that this is the first time that the frontliners is going to say something to all of you. And we have a position here. I'm going to read it, and later on I'll give you the sentiment of the Sari-sari store, because I am myself is an owner of Sari-sari store.
Could you tell us how many Sari-sari stores are represented by your group, sir? And saan po sila?
Sari-sari, kapisanan ng mga Sari-sari stores started October last year, because we pushed to make a group like this, because nababahala na po kami dun sa increase ng mga paninda po namin, hindi lang po sa sigarilyo. So we are a small group right now, and we are continuing making our group big because may mga convention po yung mga pure gold.
Ilan pong sari-sari store ang kinakatawanan ng po ninyo?
Hopefully po,
hopefully po.
Asa ngayon
yung
po?
existing po, yung existing.
Yung existing volume po is mga around 40 po ngayon. Opo. All for NCR lang po ngayon kami.
Okay, thank you po. Go ahead, go ahead, sir.
Kapisanan ng mga sari-sari stores sa Pilipinas is an organization of sari-sari stores selling various items within a small community such as food items, rice, bread, snacks, canned goods, confectionaries, coffee, cooking oil, non-food items like soup, detergents, brooms, etc. And beverage.
Sir, sorry yung posisyon na lang po nila dun sa sa sigarilyo ho, dito sa dagdag na buwis ho sa sigarilyo at iba, yung sin product po.
Mr. Chairman.
Senator Dick, yes.
Yung katabi niya ang kumalabit sa akin kanina, and pagdating ko, di ko kilala ito mga ito, no?
Marami ata kumakalabit sa iyo, Senator Dick.
Well, statements emanating from envy do not deserve the dignity of a reply. Anyway, kinalabit ako na dahil medyo siyempre they're challenge. Pag tinanong mo sila 40, siyempre nag-organize sila kaya medyo ma'am, anong pangalan nyo yung kanina? Kasi yung nagsasalita kayo naka-Amerikana, yung isa nag-English. Pero yan, yung
magandang tanghali po sa inyong lahat. Ako po si Miss Catherine Talang po ng Pasko po. Philippine Association's Office Historian Karinderia Honor po.
Opo.
Kami po ay 7,000 po dito po sa buong Pilipinas po. Hindi pa po lahat po yung nakasali sa province po. Yun po kami, ganun po kami kalaki at organized po kami, sir.
Ma'am, kayo
Yes, sir.
kasama nitong si Francis.
Opo.
Si St. Francis, no?
Yes, sir.
Francis. Meron kayong binigay na papel sa akin kanina. Gusto ko para we cut to the chase, Mr. Chairman. Ang sinabi nyo, ang problema nyo, ang 80 pesos per pack ngayon. Tama ba?
Yung puhunan.
Puhunan pa lang po yun.
Ang bentahan nyo, 100.
Opo.
Sa sigarilyo, isang pack, no?
Opo.
So, lumalabas, 5 piso kada tingi. O, ano ba tawag doon? Tingi.
Stick po.
Stick. Okay. Ang proposal ngayon ng DOH ay, DOH ba yun? DOH? DOF ba ito? DOH ang lagay.
DOH po.
73 pesos per pack increase. Tama ba yan?
Our proposal po is 25 peso increase per pack.
Ang sinasabi nila, yung 80 dati, pag dinagdagan nyo ng 73, abot ng 153. Saan galing yung 73 binigay nyo sa akin? Kaya ako na-shock eh.
Narinig ko po kanina, sabi ho nila 73.
Hindi po.
Yung pinag-uusapan po yung elasticity kanina na kaya pang
Ang proposal po namin, Mr. Chair, Senator Gordon, ay 60 per pack. Ngayon po ay nasa 35, kaya ang dagdag po ay 25 lamang po.
25.
Yes po, 25 per pack ang dagdag.
So, mali, no? So, ang magkano magiging kita nyo dyan ngayon sa bentahan nyo?
Ngayon po, pagka nadagdag po yung 25?
Oo.
Bale...
60, no? 60?
60 in total, pero 35 na po ngayon. So, ang dagdag po ay 25 lamang. Additional 25, kasi 35 per
60
pack.
60 plus 35 plus 25 or 60
Hindi
plus
po.
25?
Ngayon po ay 35. Gagawin po natin 60. So, ang additional po ay 25 lang.
So, 60.
So, yung 80 po ngayon, dadagdagan po ng 60?
25, hindi po.
25 sa 100 na po yun.
Sa 25.
115 po yung pantay.
105 po.
Lahat.
105.
Yan lang po. Hindi po 73 ang dagdag. 25 po.
Ano reaction nyo po doon ngayon? Hindi pala yung binibigay nyo sa akin,
Hindi po. Yun po kasi yung pagkakaintindi ho namin kanina po. Opo. Oo.
Pwede po ba akong makasabat po para po sa Pasko po?
Sige po.
Ma'am, with the indulgence of Senator Gordon, can we just ask the lady and the gentleman, I think, para for orderly procedure, we'll ask the gentleman to wrap up, then the lady to wrap up. So there's still a lot of resource persons. Yeah. So, So yung si
Makibilis
Miss
ako, kaya
sige po. Si Miss Catherine,
Kasi kayo
tapusin na po natin. Just
Apo.
give your position po.
Ako po si Miss Catherine po ng PASCO po. Leader po ako ng PASCO, chapter leader po. Nandito po kami para po sabihin po sa inyo kung paano po kami magbenta po sa maliliit na tindahan po. Pinararating po namin sa inyo, hindi po kami umaayaw sa taxes na binibigay nyo. Kasi po maliit lang din naman po kami. Pero po, inaano ko po sa inyo na kami po ang mga maliliit na tindahan, nandito po kami sa bawat barangay. At nararamdaman po namin ang tulong ninyo kung sakasakali po, Dr. Duque po. Maraming salamat po. Pero po, kami po, ngayon po ay nagsasabi sa inyo na apektado na po kami. At yung pong kinikita namin na binibigay namin sa aming mga pamilya po ay hindi na po sumasapat. Doon po kami kumukuha ng pangkabuhayan namin sa tindahan. Kung lahat po yun ay maaapektuhan ng inflation rate mula po sa sigarilyo at sa iba pa po, saan na po kami lalagay? Siguro po ngayon po marami na pong tindahan ang nagsara dahil po sa taas po ng mga bilihin natin. Wala po kami pinagkukunan. Paano po namin bibigyan po ang aming pamilya ng trabaho kung kayo po tumutulong sa amin? Gusto lang po namin sana iparinig sa inyo na yung pong pagtaas po ng inyong binibigay ay nakakatulong po sa gobyerno. Sana po yung daing po namin ay makatulong din po sa inyo. Kung inyong babasahin ko po ito pong aking kami po ay nagpapasalamat sa inyo na kami po ay inimbitahan nyo mula po kay Senator at binigyan nyo po kami ng pagkakataon magsalita dito sa PASCO po. Ito pong mga PASCO po ay nasa 7,000 na po kami mga karinderya at tindahan po. Yun po yung dami namin. At kami pa po ay naghihikayat para po makatulong sa iba pa. Kung ano man po ang maibibigay namin, nagbibigay po kami ng kaalaman tungkol po sa mga paano magpaunlad ng tindahan. Yun po kami. At binibigay din po namin ang binibigay pong benepisyo sa gobyerno. Pero po, ito pong inflation rate na binibigay nyo na taxes to tobacco, ay naapektahan po ang aming tindahan. Yung iba po hindi na po nagtinda, tulad po ng sinasabi po nila, marami pong hindi na nagtitinda ng sigarilyo. Sapagkat po sa taas po nito, isang piraso po iniisip po nila, saan pa namin kukunin to? Totoo po yun, gusto po ninyo na sana po ayaw na magsigarilyo. Pero po kami pong tindahan na umaasa dito. Dito sa produkto na to, na pinapakain din namin sa aming pamilya, sana po dinggin po ninyo kami na pag-aralan po bago po ninyo ibigay ang pagtaas nito. Kasi po kung tutulong po kayo talaga sa amin, ito po yung pagkakataon na po, basahan po ninyong mabuti kung ano po yung hinaing din po namin. Maraming salamat po sa inyo at sa inyo po, Senator Gordon, thank you po sa pagbibigay niyo sa akin kanina.
Kasi sabi niyo hindi kayo natatawag, ngayon lang kayo matatawag. So,
Opo, salamat
pinakiusap ko, si Senator Angara po ang pasalamatan niyo.
Salamat po, Chairman Angara.
Dali lang ho, pleno na muna.
Thank you, Catherine. Mag-usap na lang kayo ni Senator Gordon sa labas.
Isa lang tanong.
Thank you po.
Nagselos na naman si Senator Angara.
Thank you po.
Maseloso ito eh.
Salamat po, salamat.
Napakaseloso. Anyway, isa lang tanong ko. Ang sabi niyo kanina sa akin, dahil sa sobrang taas, ang mangyayari ngayon, o ang nangyayari, and I want the great Carl Chua to confirm this, ang nangyayari, napupunta sa smuggling. Yun ang nagbebentang panibago. Ang daming nakita kong gumanong kagad. Totoo ba yan?
Actually po, napaka-intensive po ang pagpunta ng mga nagbebenta ng fake. Talagang pumupunta na po sila sa tindahan. Hindi na po pa sikreto. Opo. Hindi lang po sa araw yan. Pupunta yan sa gabi.
Sabi ni Senator Gatchalian, pa-describe mo raw yung sinasabi niya, naglalako. May sinabi kang pangalan kanina, bumalik ka mo eh.
Ay, wala po. Hindi sila nagsasabi ng binubulong ho kasi para pasikreto nila sinasabi. But they are reaching out ho sa mga tindahan.
Magkano offer?
Ay, mababa po. Mababa po. Malboro po, Mighty. Ganun.
Mighty?
Opo. Meron po. Kasi, meron naman ho talaga nagko-consume ng Mighty, may nagko-consume ng Winston, may nagko-consume ng Malboro. Ganun, Hope, Fortune.
Fake ba yun? Fake?
Opo.
Fake eh.
Oo.
Yeah.
Yung presyo po? Let's say yung Marlboro po, ang talagang price po niyan sa ahente is 78. Binibigay lang po nila ng 60. So kung ibebenta mo ng 5 pesos yan, ang laki. Kasi 100 yung isang pack. So meron kang 40 pesos.
So, lugi na yung humidit, lugi pa yung gobyerno na sinasabi mo.
Opo.
Yeah.
Kasi kailangan lang makaraos manigarilyo. It doesn't matter now kung...
Hindi naman makaraos, masama nga yung magsigarilyo, pero lugi pa rin ang gobyerno.
Tama po.
Dahil lugi ang tao, di ba? Dahil hindi
At yung mga tindahan po, kakagatin na po talaga nila yun.
Ay importante, makuha yung tax na tama para mas malaki ang magagamit natin sa universal healthcare. Na hindi magkakaroon ng reaction na may magbebenta ng peke o mas mababa. Kaya nangyayari, naluloko lahat ng tao, pati gobyerno. Tama po ba yan?
Tama po.
O, yun lang po gusto ko sabihin sa inyo. Yun ang sinabi niyo sa akin, kaya na-touch ako. Thank you.
Senator Nancy, go ahead.
Tatanong ka lang, you said, Carl, ito ba ay 60 pesos plus VAT?
Yung VAT po kasi kasama na. So, ang iba-VAT lang po, yung dagdag na 25 peso na excise. So, siguro pag dinagdag po yung 12% VAT sa excise na 25, yan po ay may siguro, compute ko po So, ano po, 25 times 1.12, 28 po ang total ng VAT at excise. So, yung 60 po kasi, yung 35, existing na po. So, ang idadagdag lang po natin ay 25 plus VAT na 3 piso. So, 28 peso po total.
Being 63.
60 times...
Kasi sabi nga plus 3 pesos.
Total po ay 67, pero yung 4 peso na VAT, existing na po.
Hindi
So, ang dagdag.
Huwag na natin balikan yung existing. I just want to know, pag napasa yung 60 pesos, magkano magiging presyo niya with VAT?
With VAT, 67 po.
So, 67 pesos. It's
Opo.
not really 60 pesos.
Yes
Correct?
po. Pag nadagdag po yung VAT, 67.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Binay. Can we hear from the health sector? We have
pwede ho
Social
bang-
Watch Philippines, Dr. Maria Victoria Raquiza.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you very much,
Appreciate
Your Honor, for allowing us to manifest our position on the issue at hand. We are a CSO network with over 150 organizations nationwide, and we would like to manifest our wholehearted support for a unitary tobacco tax increase at maximum levels. We are looking at 90 pesos per pack with an annual increase of 9% from the current rate. And we have two reasons for this. One, we view this tax primarily as a health measure, in that it is an important and effective disincentive for smoking, which means ultimately that which matters most, and that is a healthier Filipino nation. A sin tax at 90 pesos means about 1.6 million less smokers by the end of the Duterte administration. A sin tax at 90 means that we may have lowered the prevalence of smoking to 17% from the current 20%. In this very concrete sense, Your Honor, tobacco tax is undoubtedly a universal health care intervention in itself. It is established in the literature that the price of cigarettes is influenced through taxation, which is an important determinant of health and the spread of non-communicable disease. Second, we also believe, like as has been expressed in the room, that the sin tax bill is a measure that will generate revenues for UHC, at least for the short to medium term. At 90 pesos per pack, some 23 billion, this is, I understand, data from DOF, I can be corrected, CSOs actually compute a bigger rate, will be generated as incremental revenues, helping to secure funding over the short to medium term. We must remember that we are in this for the long haul, and a roadmap to transition and financing is required. We believe that taxing tobacco to the maximum anticipates the strategic trajectory of the universal health care and importantly secures its much-needed funding. This also helps ensure that the UHC funding is not subject to annual significant realignment and held hostage to changing political winds and political configurations that prevail during each budget season, which may lead to uneven support for UHC. In the long run, however, we would like to see a population who are smoking less, even if it means less revenues from sin taxes. In this light, we have a bit of a problem grappling with the notion of a sweet spot, because the health of the Filipino people is non-negotiable, and that includes the health of our Filipino farmers and their children. Based on what they have said continuously, what is needed now is a robust support for alternative livelihoods, from cash assistance to credit, to capacity building. To pit the necessity for livelihoods versus health, in a sense, is a false dichotomy. Ultimately, from a holistic perspective, a population smoking less or not at all will also mean less government expenditures for health care. We have been told by our doctors, no, to the tune of at least 200 billion pesos annually. This 210 billion potential savings for government can be eventually realigned to improve other deficits of well-being, including education, housing, and yes, job creation and strengthening. Your Honor, let me end with some note of urgency. Evidence is overwhelming and sufficient to conclude that we can settle for a much significant tax rate than what the House has passed. We believe that time is of the essence and that we are losing time. We understand that we have only 2 sessions left. We don't want 200,000 new smokers this year, and we don't want the implementation of UHC to be delayed. Finally, Your Honor, I have been asked by my constituents in civil society to relay this message. Let us please decide on the rate. This bill has been certified as urgent, and prolonging the discussion can be interpreted by many health advocates that the bill is inadvertently being killed. We respectfully appeal to Senator Angara to release a committee report soon with clear recommendations. Thank you very much.
We assure you that's what we're doing in this process. That's why we're spending our precious time here. We could be somewhere else doing something else, but we've dedicated here because we're looking for that right rate. So trust us on that. Can we now hear from Dr. Limpin, the Framework Convention on Tobacco Control Alliance?
Good afternoon, and thank you for the opportunity to be able to present to you the position of the Framework Convention on Tobacco Control Alliance Philippines. And I would like also, I'd like also to relate to everyone that I am also representing the Philippine Coalition on Against Non-Communicable Diseases in the country. So I think if you will not just look at the number of doctors and health advocates that are now present in this room, you will see the gravity of the importance of this particular bill that are now on hand to us. So let me just show to you, kasi kanina pa po tayo nagtatanong. So what is the effect on revenue? Nasabi na rin naman ho yan ng Department of Finance. But what will be the effect on health, in particular the number of smokers in the country? So let me start first with the current tax system that we have, yung train po. And if you will look at the current tax system that we have, currently we are taxing cigarettes at 35 pesos per pack, and we expect to have an average 5% increase, no? So as far as revenue is concerned, syempre wala na ho tayong expected na incremental increase by 2022 from train. Incremental, no? Kasi wala ho tayong idadagdag pa sa ngayon. So pagdating naman po doon sa, kung titignan natin yung House Bill 8677, this was the bill that was approved in the House of Representatives, wherein starting July, magkakaroon ho sila ng 37.50 na tax on cigarette and an average increase of 6%. The revenue will be around 11.5 billion incremental increase by 2022. So I will not belabor too much on House Bill 4575 by Representative Salceda kasi hindi naman ho ito ang naipasa sa Kongreso. Now, I will jump to the Senate bill of Senator Manny Pacquiao, which is Senate Bill 1599, wherein the tax rate that is being proposed is 60 pesos per pack with a 9% annual increase. So, ang revenue, incremental revenue that we expect by 2022 will be 141.6 billion. So, kung titignan ho natin, napakalaki po ang difference, no? From House Bills 8677 to Senate Bill 1599. Napakalaki po. And then we look at Senator Vin Gatchalian's proposal, 2177, 70%, 70 pesos per pack and a 9% increase annual. The expected revenue, of course, will be higher at 144.7 billion. And yung kay Senator JV naman, at 90 pesos per pack and 9% increase, you will have a 124.7 billion. Now, ito pong estimates na ito is based on the DOF calculations, and I presume that is based on an elasticity of 0.56, 0.57. I would just like to relate to your honor that as far as our computation
Dr. Limpin, why is the total from the 90 pesos lower than the 70?
Yes po. Ito po yung sinasabi ng DOF wherein at a certain magdi-decrease po yung revenue. But that is according to the computation of the DOF. We have actually a different computation wherein based from an elasticity of about 0.4 or even 0.3. Kasi kung titignan ho natin doon sa Walbich's model, based on the syntax experience that we have, the elasticity should be at around between 3.3 to 0.4. Kasi talaga pong lower, very low ang elasticity ng sigarilyo. The low elasticity is because of the addiction. Kaya we cannot expect yung sinasabi natin 100%, yun yung sinasabi ho palagi ng mga tobacco industry. A 100% increase, parang sinasabi nila there will also be a 100% reduction in smoking. Hindi po mangyayari yon because of the addiction in smoking. So, meron ho talaga ng mga tao na kapag addicted, as long as may pera sila, will continue to smoke. Ang pinaka-primary focus ho natin dito ay yung mga kabataan. Dahil ang mga kabataan, sila po yung limited ang resources and therefore cannot really buy cigarettes, no? If we increase the prices of cigarettes. Now, more than the revenue, I would like to point out to you the effect on the number of smokers in the country. With the current tax that we have trained po, we expect that by 2022, instead of a reducing number of smokers, we will even have an increasing number of smokers. That is more than 1.4 million more smokers. Dahil nga po doon sa addiction. And also, increasing population and increasing affordability ng sigarilyo. So, marami na pong pera ang tao ngayon dahil doon sa ginawang, because of the train law, no, na mas may dispensable money ang mga tao. Kaya mas may kaya mo silang bumili. House Bill 8677, yung proposed ng approved by the House, there will be 1.2 million more smokers. Now we look at Senator Manny Pacquiao's bill. Ito po yung makikita natin. We will see a reduction by 500,000 by the end of 2022. Kay Senator Vin Gatchalian naman, you will have less smokers. So at 900,000 less smokers. And of course, yung kay Senator JV Ejercito, that is less than 1.6 million smokers by 2022. So, napakadali lang po, no? Iniisip po natin palagi revenue. For us, mga health advocates, kami pong doktor who have been seeing patients dying, getting sick, no, suffering from many diseases brought about by tobacco, hindi na ho namin kaya na basta na lang pabayaan na mamatay ang mga tao. Okay, so kailangan po natin siguraduhin na hindi pa po dadami ang maninigarilyo. Kasi pag dumami po ang maninigarilyo, mas marami pa po ang magkakasakit. At mas mangangailangan ho tayo ng mas malaking pera para lang ho natin mapagamot at mapigilan ang pagkakamatay ng mga tao dahil dito sa mga tobacco-related diseases. So therefore, Your Honor, it is our plea. It is our plea that you need to do something right now. As much as possible, we would like an tobacco tax increase to be passed before po mangyari yung election. Kaya kami po ay nakikiusap na ipasa nyo na po ito. And do not, if you're looking for that sweet spot, you have to really appreciate you need to tax no less than 60 pesos. Pwede pong 70, pwede pong 90, but no less than 60 pesos. Sa atin naman pong mga magsasaka, sa mga sari-sari store owners, ang ganitong klaseng panukalang batas ay inclusive. Kasama po kayo dito. Lahat po kayo nagkakasakit. Alam ko, wala po kayong masyadong pera, kahit po kayo ay sari-sari store owner, lahat po kayo nagkakasakit. Kami din po nagkakasakit. Ang gusto ho natin, masiguro po natin na lahat ho tayong mga Pilipino ay mabibigyan ng kaukulang pag-aalaga sa ating kalusugan. Ayaw ho naming makita na kapag kayo ay nagkasakit, hindi man lamang tayo makapunta sa ating mga doktor, sa mga rural health centers ninyo. Bakit? Dahil natatakot kayo na wala kayong perang panggastos. Ito nga po ang sinusolusyonan ng universal healthcare. Pero hindi ho ito mangyayari kung walang sapat na pondo. So, importante po ito sa mga sari-sari store owners po na namomroblema doon sa kanilang kinikita. Marami pa po kayong pwedeng itinda. Hindi lang po sigarilyo. Kung mawala po ang mas maganda nga siguro wala na kayong itindang sigarilyo eh. Bakit po? Pag kayo po na-expose sa mga usok ng sigarilyo, marami ho sa inyo, nagsisigarilyo yung mga bumibili. Sa may tindahan po ninyo, kayo po ay nagkakasakit din. Madami po akong pasyente everyday. Mga sari-sari store owners po, hinihika, nagkaka-cancer dahil po sa exposure sa second-hand smoke. So, para din po ito sa inyo. So, alalahanin po ninyo, this is an inclusive bill. Hindi po ito para sa amin lamang. Ito po ay para sa lahat ng Pilipino. So maraming salamat po.
Thank you, ma'am. Yeah. Can we hear from former DA Secretary Leonie Montemayor, sir? Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, can I call...
sige, pagkatapos ho ni Secretary Montemayor, I'll recognize you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll make it short, Mr. Chairman, because I think we're pressed for time. Kanina po kasi si Senator Ejercito said that this bill under discussion seeks to hit two birds with one stone, di ba, Senator? You want to increase the tax rate to generate additional revenue, and then at the same time you want to curb the incidence of smoking. I would like to say, Mr. Chairman, that there is a third bird here na hindi pa po napag-uusapan ng mabuti. Hindi pa yata napag-uusapan. Ito po yung magsasakat mga manggagawa sa industriya ng tabako. We really would like to find out, Mr. Chairman, ano bang impact so far ng expanded excise tax reform bill? I don't want to use the word sin tax kasi parang pinalalabas makasalanan po yung produkto. And therefore, the producer of that product, ng ating magsasaka, manggagawa, at ibang nasa industriya ng tabako, ay makasalanan ng tao. Ang dami na nga pong may hirap na magsasaka, papatawan pa natin ng kasalanan. Baka hindi na po payagan ng mga pare na mangumunyon. Kasi makasalanan eh. Opo. So sana po, if we can avoid the use of that word sin tax. Farmers are doing their share of work in good faith. They're providing for their families. So wala pa po kami nakikitang pag-aaral talaga Ano bang naging impact so far nitong pagtaas po ng ng buwis?
We'll just call it the naughty products tax. Secretary.
Parang wala pong serious
That's from a
study,
naughty senator.
Go ahead, Secretary. There are a lot of people waiting to speak.
Yeah, I'll just go to the next and the last point kasi again, time is very limited. Yung pong 15% incremental share na dapat pumunta sa mga viable economic alternatives. There is no serious discussion as I've observed in the hearing, either from the DOF, I don't know if the DA representatives are here, DOLE. Meron pa
DA is represented by the National Tobacco Administration.
Wala ho kang nakikitang serious program because the advantage po ng current tobacco production system, it's a complete package. Meron pong before the planting is done, there are negotiations involving NTA, the commercial sector, and the farmers groups. They agree on a level of production. They are assured of a price support. On that basis, farmers are confident they have a stable income. They have access to sure financing, NTA and the commercial growers, technical support extended. Ngayon, kung wala po silang maliwanag at mabisang kapalit, it's suicidal po. Hindi lang po makakasakit ng mga magsasaka. Mamamatay po sila. Mawawalan po ng trabaho. And this is already borne by some reports. Layoffs in the commercial sector, in the rural production sector, reduction in income because reduced buying of tobacco. And then we tell farmers, go into high-value products. We've seen what happened recently in Benguet. High-value product nga, pero bagsak naman ang presyo kasi overproduction. Walang market linkaging. So unless we have an honest-to-goodness replacement system, I think it's not realistic to expect most of our tobacco farmers to go into other products. So kung talagang seryoso po tayo dito po sa pag-cut down ng production, tignan po natin mabuti kung gaano po mabisa ito pong sinasabing viable economic alternatives. Yun lang po, Mr. Chairman.
Salamat, Secretary Leonie. We assure you that we're willing to put in a provision for the farmers if you can help us draft one. Maybe if USEC2 is open to allotting some portion of that to other alternative programs. No? I think Senator Manny Pacquiao wants to say something. He's an author. So.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for hearing this tobacco tax increase. Napaka-importante para sa maintindihan ng ating mga kababayan na katulad nung explain ko kanina, ang government natin kailangan ng funding. Okay? Kailangan ng funding. So tayong lahat magtutulungan tayo. Hindi naman siyempre may mga magsasaka na sa tobacco industry. Maraming mga mahihirap na nagtrabaho diyan. Pero hindi namin yan binabaliwala. Iniisip din namin yan, pero we are trying to accommodate lahat ng dapat na patawan ng taxes. Hindi na natin kaya magpataw ng taxes doon sa mga pang-araw-araw na ginagamit ng milyong-milyong pamilya sa like food, bigas, pagkain, lahat ng ginagamit araw-araw. Hindi na natin kaya magpataw ng taxes diyan dahil lalong nahihirapan yung mga mahihirap na tao. So we are looking for another alternative solution na makakuha ang government ng funding para masolusyonan itong mga problema sa especially itong universal healthcare. Kailangan ng funding diyan. So ang naisip natin is although hindi namin kayo pinapabayaan, iniisip din namin kayo na ano bang solution para magkaroon din kayo ng alternative business o work jobs na hindi lang sa tobacco. Pero gusto kong i-explain sa inyo mabuti na
na itong pag-increase natin sa tobacco is hindi naman kasi nakakatulong din yung although patawarin nyo kami kung sinabi namin tawag syntax, pero yun kasi ang anong madaling sabihin nila. Pero itong tobacco kasi hindi nakakatulong din sa health ng tao. So kung hindi nakakatulong, so nakakasira pa ito, maraming namamatay katulad ng in-explain ng ating mga doktor na nandito ngayon. Scientifically, in-explain nila ng mabuti na ilang libo ang namamatay dahil sa paninigarilyo. So, therefore, para mabawasan yung mga namamatay, mag-increase tayo ng taxes para yung mga kabataan din, mapaliwanag din natin, no? Napaliwanag din kanina na yung mga kabataan natin, hindi sila maengganyo magsigarilyo dahil sa pagmamahal na yung sigarilyo. Pero yung may mga pera na addicted talaga, kaya nilang bumili nun. Pero, ang iniiwasan natin yun sa yung mga bata din. And then ang income, ang pera na malikom dito, makadagdag, makatulong sa government natin to implement those bills na napasa, itong universal healthcare, na kailangan ng budget, ng funding. So win-win solution tayo. Hindi naman natin hayaan na milyon-milyon mga Pilipino mag-suffer, maghirap lalo kung mag-impose pa tayo ng taxes doon sa mga pagkain like bigas, mga usually ginagamit natin. Ito lang kasi naisip natin itong tobacco, and then I'm thinking also to increase taxes from alcohol, yung mga alcohol. Pero ito muna ang pinag-usapan natin ngayon, itong tobacco tax increase, dahil napaka-importante po ito, dahil hindi na po natin kaya na palagi na lang mangungutang yung bansa natin para sa funding na kailanganin. So tayo ang gumawa ng paraan, tayo magtutulungan dito. Hindi namin binabaliwala yung tobacco industry, yung mga farmers natin na nagtatrabaho. Iniisip din namin yan. We'll find a solution, an alternative solution for them na makatulong din sa kanila. And also our government is trying to find a solution na hindi rin kayo mapabayaan, hindi rin kayo maiwanan. Ang iniisip natin dito is paano natin paano makadagdag ng budget sa government and ma-implement yung dapat na-implement na maiwasan yung mababawasan yung mga namamatay ng mga Pilipino. So yun lang po, napakasaya ng aking pakiramdam because na-hear itong bill na ito, itong usaping ito sa pagtaas ng taxes sa tabako. And then I'm hoping na active naman to, magaling tong chairman natin ng committee. I'm sure na I believe na matatapos kaagad ito. Salamat po.
Salamat Senator Manny sa pagpapuri at masaya kami na masaya ka.
Mr. Chair.
At nanalo ka pa. Yes, si Mr. Manuel. Let's keep it brief, sir, kasi actually may ibang item kami sa agenda that we'd like to at least start the hearing.
Opo, Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
Kay Doktora po, maraming salamat po doon sa sinabi niya na inclusive kami dito sa presentation niya. But then I want to make a point po na yung mga sari-sari store, this is our livelihood. At hindi independent po kami sa mga government, binibigay ng government. Like, hindi po kami umaasa sa 4Ps. We are working hard to meet our ends para sa mga pangangailangan namin bilang mga store owners. And of course, I'm going to say again that we're only 40 members right now, but it's logical. How many sari-sari stores in the Philippines? Even the small islands has a sari-sari store. So let's say we have 1 million sari-sari stores spread all over the Philippines. And times mo sa 5 yan, in one family, that's already how much? Yun po ang madi-displace at yun po ang susunod na magsasuffer at pupunta po sa 4Ps ng government. So hopefully sana po may consider ninyo yon kasi gaya po niyan, nasabi po ni Senator Pacquiao, yung dagdag na hinahanap nila na funding is kinukuha pa sa ibang paninda at susunod po yung alak. So wala na pong paraan para kumita ng malaki ang mga sari-sari store, which is their livelihood, kasi sobrang laki na po yung puhunan. And again, thank you for hearing us, And ma'am, thank you po sa pagsabi ninyo kaya na you have enlightened me yung word mo na inclusive kami dyan. Hopefully sana matulungan din kami ng government o maisip din ng government yung mga sari-sars. Please, these companies of cigarettes are just the manufacturers. The frontliners also suffers, not only the farmers, we, the frontliners. Kasi ang dami naming binibenta, binabawasan na po namin. Hindi na po mabili ngayon ng sardinas. Hindi na rin po mabili ngayon ng canned goods. Kasi instead po na bumili ng canned goods, humahabol na po yung presyo ng canned goods doon sa presyo po ng pagkain sa karinderya. So ang binibili po ng tao ngayon, yung pagkain na po sa karinderya, hindi na po canned goods. Honest po, bagsak po ang benta ng sari-sari store today. And kung magdadagdag po kayo ng karagdagang buwis sa lahat ng paninda namin, wala na pong mangyayari. Magko-close na po yung aming tindahan. At last po, marami na pong nag-close na tindahan. It's because sumusunod po kami ngayon sa patakaran, sa mga ordinansa na bawal magbenta within 100 meters sa barangay, sa school, sa church. Mantakin niyo po yung nawala na yun sa na nagbebenta ng mga cigarettes, na mga frontliners. Actually po, nagkaroon po ako ng meeting last week and
Sir, sorry. I have to cut you short because medyo nakarami na ho kayo.
Okay. Thank you po, Mr. Chairman. Thank you po.
Si Senator JV naman ho wants to make an
Quickly lang,
interjection.
Mr. Chair. Siguro before we suspend, we still have to hear some resource persons. But may gusto lang akong i-confirm. Kasi nagwo-worry tayo doon sa mawawala sa domestic sales, no? But dito po meron akong dokumento rito, just like probably Yusek Carl can confirm, that in spite of the decrease doon sa domestic market, doon sa export, tumaas tayo. Tama ba ito yung sa tobacco export natin in metric tons, no? From 2012, dito yung sa syntax, 31,449 metric tons. The following year, 2013, 33,000. Tapos 2014, 41,000. Tapos 2017, 61,962. Yung in metric tons, yung export ho natin. Can you confirm this, Yusek Carl or anybody?
I have, Mr. Chair, data from NTA. Hindi po eksakto, pero yung trend pataas. In fact po, yung latest na 2018, sabi po ng NTA, yung production ay 31 million kilos of leaf. Pero yung in-export ay 35, mas malaki pa, 35 million. Tapos nag-import pa tayo ng 82 million kilograms. So mukha naman may market naman talaga for our leaf. Tapos yung 15% mukhang sapat naman, pero siguro kailangan balikan yung allocation kung saan po mapupunta dapat.
So, can we, sa tobacco exporters, meron din. Association Director Pedro Mendiola, do you confirm this, sir? Na tumataas po yung export natin ng tobacco products in the recent years?
Yeah, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I admit it's tumataas, but we're not compatible with the price globally. And maybe Mr. Winston, you can explain more, because he's an exporter also.
Sino po?
Mr. Winston Yui.
Sige po, pwede po. Wala na.
That's the only problem, Mr. Senator.
Hindi ho kayo competitive, sinasabi yung price globally?
Yeah, yung because of our high price of the production.
Di ba mas mura ho tayo o mas mahal?
Mas mura.
Mas mura.
No, but we need low grade din kasi they consider tobacco
low grade.
As a filter, tawag? They call us they consider tobacco very low quality. That's why we cannot sell it at a high price.
Low grade, you mean? But still, meron pa rin tayong increase compared to the previous years. Tumaas pa rin yung ating volume na exports. So hindi din kasi kung natitignan nyo yung total, nakita ko rito, bumaba ng konti yung ating domestic, pero halos pareho lang kasi nga yung export natin tumaas. Yung total ng volume of tobacco production in metric tons, ito po yun On the average, from 2008 to 2012, nasa 40,479. Tapos yung sa 2013 to 2017, nasa 55,769 po. So, si Carla siguro. Do you confirm this, si Carla? Medyo in the recent years, it's increasing?
Yes po. Although kasi nagpadala po yung NTE ng bagong data, baka pwede namin i-submit dated January 14 po kasi yung latest data.
My point is that tobacco production still increasing in spite of the taxes. Diba?
Sir, we have data
Pati
on
sa exports.
Excuse me, we have data on exports.
Yes.
Exports, sir. Can I share my
Mr.
presentation?
Chair, baka pwede ho.
You'll be recognized at a subsequent time. Let's keep it orderly because the truth is we're already over time because we allotted only until 2 o'clock for this hearing, and it's already 2:30, and we have another bill to hear. But we've scheduled another hearing for Monday morning. No, so those who want to come back can return. Those who want to submit position papers can return. But the data we've requested, we ask that it be ready. Give us a bit of lead time before Monday para ma-process po natin. And we'll ask DOH as well as PhilHealth, President Ferrer, can you furnish us with the expenditures of PhilHealth and the allotments and the needs? What is the game plan going forward? Basically the same tack that I've taken with Secretary Duque regarding what is the plan to meet our ultimate goal of universal coverage for UHC. Ano po? Para mapadali na, Senator Gatchalian, I recognize you after Mr. Vicente. Sir, can we keep it brief, sir?
Thank you for the privilege, Mr. Chair. In the last hearing, the tobacco farmers agreed with the opinions and recommendations of the National Tobacco Administration, and our good Senator Richard Gordon, who is a member of this committee, that to balance the situation for the sake of the affected farmers and the industry as a whole. We strongly oppose on the proposed increase of tax of cigarette from 30 pesos per pack in the RA 10351 or the sin tax law as amended last 2017 into 35 pesos per pack again and again in the proposed bills by Senator Pacquiao, Senator Gatchalian, and Senator Ejercito into 60, 70, 90 pesos per pack correspondingly. Kami po ay hindi papayag dahil ito'y ikamamatay ng aming industriya at kabuhayan. Paano po? Ito'y napakataas at hindi kakayanin ng mga consumer. So ang ating national consumption ay bababa and then the manufacturers ay babawasan rin ang kanilang gagawing sigarilyo at babawasan na rin ang binibiling nilang tabako sa amin na ito'y pangunahing sangkap sa paggawa ng sigarilyo. Tapos babawasan din namin ang aming itatanim, siyempre bababa na rin ang aming kinikita. Ganon po kami maapektuhan pati aming kabuhayan. Hindi lang po yan, bababa rin ang collection sa BIR doon sa RA 10351 na ang pinaka malaking porsyento or 85% ay pupunta sa National Healthcare Program ng Department of Health. In addition, Mr. Chair, we are all heard from the news that one of the biggest red drying plant in the country was closed in the last quarter of 2018 due to rapid increase of tax of cigarette in the past years. They laid off less than 1,000 workers, whereas up to now, walang trabaho. Paano na nila papakainin ang kanilang sarili at pamilya? Also, I remember, Mr. Chair, that people in Congress, during the deliberation of the sin tax law, that they promised to allocate a certain percent, including the Department of Health, from RA 10351 for the affected tobacco farmers for their livelihood in order for them to survive during the 5-year transition. Mr. Chair, kami ay napaasa at naniwala sa wala. They are not true to us, kawawang mga innocent farmers. Further, this is to inform the Honorable Committee that before I end, we believe that the tobacco farmers, the traders, the manufacturers, and the workers of the tobacco industry, including those from the National Tobacco Administration, are not the problem, but we are part of the solution. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Salamat. Senator Win Gatchalian is the last person I'll recognize today. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Just very quick manifestation, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, ang general trend ho dito sa ASEAN is really pataas yung excise tax on sin tax. In fact, if you look at the price per pack sa iba-ibang neighboring countries natin, sa Indonesia, 92 pesos per pack, sa Malaysia, 226 pesos per pack, Singapore is 500 pesos per pack, Thailand's 99, and this is because of sin taxes. Ngayon, Mr. Chairman, what I'm really concerned about is really the illicit trade. So, doon po ako medyo kinakabahan. And on a later discussion, Mr. Chair, I would like to see some a deeper discussion and also analysis, especially from customs, on how to curb illicit trade and a realistic strategy on doing that. Because narinig ho natin kanina sa ating mga kasama sa Sari-sari store na bumababa na sila on a retail level. No? So magtataas nga tayo ng taxes, ang matutuwa lang naman ho dito yung mga smugglers. No? So we really have to take a look at this angle very carefully, Mr. Chair.
Senator Gatchalian, we apologize to all those who didn't get a chance to speak, but we assure you on Monday, you'll all be given a chance to speak. Salamat po. Thank you. Sorry.